Okay. Who, I guess just for fun, who wants to recap the last session? And if there's anything that's left out, I'll let you know. It was 2 weeks ago, obviously.
Yeah, I can never remember exactly. I know we got close last week. Well, we figured out, was that last week when we figured out how to control Wallace?
Yes.
By using the word Junebug and everything?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So, I know we did that.
Becky, you want to check your notes?
Let's see, what do we have?
Last week
we
was
finally made
the
it to
bank
the
robbery.
farm.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and just read over it so we can get started here. But you guys made your way back to the town and investigated Isaac's manor, finding that it had been largely unused. Like everything seems like it's being cleaned regularly, but not being lived in. Peter found a series of journals in Isaac's bedroom that detailed his daily life, but there was a gap in time where a missing journal should have been, as if one book had been taken out, essentially. You guys went outside, you heard and saw the man that you intuited had been the priest that the spirits had spoken of, the thing in the cave had spoken of, a man calling himself Granger, was also the man responsible for the bank robbery that Ketis and Ivar had seen earlier. Granger agreed to help you fulfill the request about the temple in return for helping him rob the bank, as he was certain that the solution to the dome problem was residing in that vault. You guys went along with the plan, assisting with these kind of haphazard robbery attempt. Ketis was thrown around like a rag doll by an enraged Wallace, and very, very nearly killed twice. Not that you guys would have woken back up again, but he was pretty badly destroyed by Wallace. While Peter and Ivar were searching the safe, you guys found Isaac's missing journal inside there. The journal itself, I think Peter was reading the journal, right? You were reading that line out loud, or I assume you shared the info, Peter?
Yeah.
Okay. So inside, the last entries of Isaac's journal described what had happened. Isaac had been enthralled by the Idrilim called the Chronosphere, which the visitor had brought. So basically, Jack, remember the statue in the middle of town? By their sacrifice, our town is made safe. Jack, June, and the visitor are there, right? Of the statue. Well, what the visitor had brought was the Chronosphere, and at some point somehow Isaac rather had been enthralled by that, knew that, or believed that at least that Jack had it, murdered Jack, his best friend, in effort to steal it. Jack, with his dying words, summoned Wallace to protect his daughter, June. June had been hiding in the mines, and they were going after to try to find her. So June picked up the spear and has somehow been resetting time over and over and over again to prevent Dry Gulch from being destroyed. And as the loop reset again at the end of this hour, you heard Wallace's command word, which was Junebug, and were able to kind of take control of Wallace using that. Then you guys, with the new loop, this was the sixth loop. You saw the old woman in the white space was very nearly just flat on the floor. She just kneeled down and holding onto the spear to keep herself from collapsing. You guys made your way to the farm, met Granger there, and did your best to convince him to help you raise the temple and call off the robbery. Because remember, they were preparing to go rob the place again in half an hour's time, or a little more than that. I think we ended at, let me look at my time here. We ended at 11:20 a.m. You guys are standing outside the farm talking to Granger. And he, just for a quick recap for the end of it, basically, he sounded incredulous, but you have convinced him to help you, go to the temple and help raise the place. So, did you guys have anything you wanted to say to him or interact with him there? Or you guys just heading to the temple? What do you want to do?
I think we're ready to go, unless you guys wanted to do anything first.
Can't think of anything.
I'm pretty good.
Well, Granger, agrees to head on with you. He doesn't have his horse; he's leaving it behind. You guys did leave Wallace at the tree line, a little ways away. You're just going to leave Wallace there. You taking him with you? What's the plan?
Might as well come with us. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Unless there's a reason to.
gotta let Granger know if it's all right. See if it's good with him.
Okay.
In seeing it, well, so you, just hand wave the quick portion of it. But you guys have kind of walked Granger back over towards the tree line, which is essentially on the way towards the temple, anyways. He does have a quick start and stops in his tracks when he sees Wallace. Wallace doesn't seem to be reacting to him though.
Did we tell Granger yet that we have Wallace under control?
I don't think
Or
we have.
should we tell him? Should we tell him, or does it really matter if we do? Because he'd probably be more comfortable if we do, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So we should go. I'm going to go ahead and tell him that we have Wallace under control.
Okay. He says, "Well, what do you mean under control? Like Wallace, this is starting to feel like a trap here, guys."
When you guys want to make Wallace do something simple, stand on a foot or something?
Yep, stand on one leg, bark like a dog.
Who I don't remember. So just in the sake of honesty, who said Junebug last? Who was controlling him?
I think Peter was the one.
Okay, all
that-
right. So if Peter
Yeah, I
says
think
that,
Socko did it,
then he does exactly that. Now he tries to lift one foot up, but he is a rock pile of rocks, and lifting one leg up is difficult. So you see him try to shift the knee. It doesn't move very well, but the bird sitting on the shoulder does lift one leg up, in an attempt to do so that sounds much more bird than dog. Does let out a couple of chirps that sound vaguely dog-like.
See, we got him under control. He's no threat. He's not gonna hurt us. He's not gonna do anything. So we can carry on our way.
Roll a persuasion on Peter. Roll it with advantage.
All right, give me a sec here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, with advantage, right?
Yep. There you go. That's a good roll. You rolled a 19 plus 2 is 21. So Granger still kind of staring at Wallace and not taking his eyes off him. He kind of chuckles a bit. He still seems cautious and definitely not fully comfortable with the situation, but it looks like he does believe you. He does say, well, I guess let's make our way to the temple then. I mean, if what you're saying is true, then Israfel by 3 and Israfel by 3 has sounded her horn. Then neither you or I nor Wallace here could stand in her way anyway. So she'll guide our hands. Let's go. It's best not keep an ascended waiting. And he kind of begins moving off towards the just chunking through the dry grass off towards the temple there. Following along.
Let's go.
Okay, moving out.
And you just hear the boom, 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 boom of the Wallace following closely behind you. You notice that he still has the sentience to him. He can still speak and still is himself in there, but it seems like he is not forced necessarily to follow commands, but is kind of pushed or encouraged to do so. In a way that basically says that if you were to cross something, then maybe he would still have some means of resisting, but he doesn't seem to want to resist, if that makes sense. Meaning he could be capable but chooses not to. Anyways, but we kind of we make your way down there. It does take you a couple of minutes. It's the whole distance of town was about 10, so it takes you another 5 minutes or so, which means it's about 11:25 right now. And you kind of make it to the threshold of the temple. The whole place has collapsed again. You see that giant clock on the floor there, the face of it anyways. There's no hands on it. And you kind of step in there. Granger is walking with what seems almost like a purpose, like he knows what he's doing here. He didn't at first, but as he got closer and closer, it seems like he kind of just maybe has some idea of what needs to be done here. And he kind of steps into the middle. Where are you guys at? Did you step inside? Are you standing outside? What are you doing? He's gone into the middle over to the pulpit.
Wait, just right on the outside. What do you think? Or do you guys want to go in with him?
Yeah, just keep an eye on him. Just look in from the outside.
Okay. So I mean, there's no wall. Becky, you're staying outside too?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no walls to speak of. Most of it's pretty well destroyed, and you can see right through. So you can see straight to him. It doesn't look like he's doing anything fishy, but he does kind of step into the middle over the pulpit, which is where you'd lit those candles. Actually, and the candles are all out now. But he does kind of slowly pass his hand over the 3 candles, and as he does, each of them sparks to life again. He kind of tilts his head back, face is kind of up towards the.
Yes.
Right. Well, hang on a second.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought that's what you were saying.
Oh, I was just saying bye to a couple customers. So.
Oh, gotcha. I thought you needed to go help one. So you're good?
Yep. Good.
Okay. All right. So Granger kind of tilts his head back towards what would be the ceiling if there was one, and somehow in this dusty kind of stale air of this place, there's been just this kind of ever-present sunlight glow to the whole place, but you can't see the sun because of the dome. So despite that, there's this kind of perpetual, ubiquitous glow of sunlight, but there are no sun shafts, there's no clouds, there's no nothing. It's just this place is just very still and kind of stale and musty and everything. But as he looks up towards what would be the sky, A shaft of light seems to break through the shimmering dome in what would be the sky above, and surrounds first just him, just this errant priest, and then the beam of light slowly kind of grows and kind of bathing this destroyed building in this dull glow, like lamplight through a dirty glass window, just this kind of dim glow to it. The older man's frames begins to slump a little bit, like this light beam has like some kind of a certain weight to it. And after a brief moment in the sun, he speaks. He says, Israfel by 3, she who heralded the burning of Sosobra, we of the faith dedicate this humble temple to your service in hopes that you will sing in the light again. Yep. And at these words, you guys all hear something, and it's intangible. You don't really, you hear it in your head more than you hear physical movements. But there's something moving to the north of you. And you guys kind of turn to look over your shoulders there, and all three of you, you see this beginning. Granger appears not to notice this, but each of you see moving towards you what looks like essentially like a black hole. It's just this dark, impossible emptiness that's bleeding the light and the life of everything away as it passes. It slowly kind of floats out from that cave to the north and begins to move towards you in the temple here. Everything it passes just disappears, as if this space of this black hole occupies as somehow a localized version of just like the darkest night. As it passes, the grasses and everything that's left behind are untouched. They're seemingly normal again. But everything that's nearby this anomaly looks like grayscale and dim at best, or impossible to see at all. It's just completely obliterated by this. And just as this cloud of darkness reaches this skybound sunbeam that's surrounding this temple here, the cloud begins to disperse and surround the temple, blocking your view. You can't see into it at all now. Granger is inside there presumably, but this cloud is covering the whole thing, and you can't see in at all. You're just basically locked outside. I mean, not locked out. There's no physical barrier as far as you can tell, but you can't see into it at all. You guys, what are you doing?
Step back a little bit.
Well, you're outside. You're outside
Okay.
the cloud already, anyways. So it's now kind of basically this cloud has surrounded the temple, and you can't see anything anymore. Like you see the town and everything fine, but if you look towards the temple, it looks like you're looking into a black hole, just empty space.
Am I able to drop Toki off my shoulder and have him run in and use his eyes to see what's happening inside there?
So sure, go ahead and roll a. Did I give you stats for Toki for making perception rolls and things like that? I thought I did, but I may not have.
I don't think so.
Okay, let me check here real quick. Yeah, I gave you the combat thing of granting disadvantage and stuff, just for him kind of annoying other people, but not perception. You know what? Never mind. It would be yours. Yeah, never mind. It would just be yours. Go ahead and roll a perception on Toki. So you snap your fingers, and he hops down off your shoulder down into the dry grass and just runs into this cloud. And from the outside, you guys just see him at the moment he touches it. Basically, like he's just gone. It's not like you see the shadowed head and then the shadowed body or anything like that as he passes. Basically, as soon as he touches this, it looks like the head is gone. There is no head. It's just half of a cat. And then on through the whole thing until the tail is gone and there's just nothing left. But Peter, you're standing there just milky-eyed and locally not seeing or hearing anything. But from Toki's perspective, as soon as you're inside, you see something moving in here that even through Toki's vision is at first extremely terrifying. Just in how alien and strange this creature looks. In fact, go ahead and roll a wisdom save on Peter.
All right, roll a wisdom on Peter.
Yeah, wisdom save. So there's two columns. You have the left side is abilities, the right side is saves. So the wisdom save. Yeah, second from the bottom on the right side. You manage to keep your senses about you, but you are unable to react in just this brief moment here. You're not like frozen or paralyzed or anything like that. You're just kind of like just stricken for a second, just kind of like a temporary paralysis or stun, just of how strange this is. But through Toki's eyes, you see this massive lithe form, about 14, maybe 15 feet tall, vaguely feminine in shape, wholly alien though. You can immediately sense that this thing it has a power that is not incomprehensible to you, but also is not natural to this place. It's got these thin, angular protrusions that at first through Toki's eyes look like there's some kind of clothing or something, but as this creature's floating in from the wall, basically it came through almost the same wall that Toki did, but is floating towards the middle of the temple here, over to where Granger is. But as it's floating, you realize that they're not clothing, they're not adornments, they're appendages, they're part of this creature. And where the head would be on a humanoid figure, you instead see that there's this kind of feminine face that almost looks like it's made out of like a porcelain, like a black porcelain. But the head just looks like it's a candle. Like the head is burning. There's face in front of it, and there's this kind of candle's flame that's just licking up out of the top of it. And there's this kind of lazy, meandering firelight that jumps up from her neck and out the top of her head that's casting these shadows against the floor of this now dark place. So the inside, as soon as Toki has passed through this wall of blackness, inside is just very dark, but it's just like normal nighttime dark. And the light from this thing is casting shadows from Granger. So Granger has a shadow on the ground, and Toki's own feet have shadows and so on. But it's not, the empty blackness like Kitas and Navarro are seeing from the outside. The creature kind of hovers over towards the pulpit in front of Granger, and she's not turning her face towards anyone in particular. She stops still in front of the candles. This is about what you guys are seeing. This is the best representation I could find. Because of how high your roll was, Peter, you can still technically react. Are you doing anything else, or are you just going to sit there with Toki? And Kitas and Navarro, you guys can do whatever you want. You haven't had, you haven't seen this at all, so you guys don't even know what's happening yet. So who's doing what?
I will probably just break connection with Toki for just a second here, come back to reality, and fill the team in on what's going on, so we can make a decision.
Okay. All right, so you've done that. Toki is still inside, or did you bring him out?
We're just keeping Toki in there, just kind of hang out for a little bit.
Okay. All right, so what are you guys doing? Peter's now told you that So, Peter, you recognize that this is the same creature, just based on the... because you sensed it while you were in the cave, and then had a similar sensation here from Toki's perspective. This is the same creature that was in the cave. You just couldn't see it in there. Whatever this sunbeam is that came down basically allowed it to be visible, but, still this kind of darkness that's surrounding it is keeping you guys from being able to see it from the outside. So you have told them basically that this is the same creature that was in the cave. What are you guys doing?
Oh, I don't know. Should we go in or not?
We could either Leroy Jenkins back in there, or we could, I'm thinking check it out.
Yeah, I think we might have to go in there.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. If you guys are stepping in, go ahead and just for comedic sake, let's make sure you don't trip over something, since you can't see. If you're stepping on rocks, go ahead and roll dex save.
Really did.
If you guys want to meet a god and you trip over the carpet on the way,
It'll be like Edward.
It'll be horribly embarrassing if we go in, trip, and my jar of bees fall out, and it just causes chaos.
Yeah, dude.
Gods are notorious for hating bees too. That's why they keep dying off. No, your rolls are fine. All right. So you guys kind of step through, and similar to almost how as you watch Toki walk through it, basically similar to how that looked, that works exactly like you would have imagined. Basically, at one split second you're outside and you hear all of the the noise of flies that are nearby, and all the kind of surroundings that you would expect this place to have, all of the heat, the kind of just weight of it on you, all of that stuff all there, and then just a split second later it's all gone, and you're in a very cold, very dim, like middle of the night kind of darkness as you step through. And sure enough, the light that's coming from this thing's head is casting shadows against you. But you've stepped inside, and this thing is huge. It's filling it. If the ceiling were on this place, it wouldn't fit in here. That's how tall it is, 14, 15 feet tall. And has turned, now that that moment is kind of broken. It is turned and is now facing Granger. Doesn't appear to have reacted to you guys entering in at all, but you've now stepped into this and are now kind of inside, at least. Whether you've gone to the middle or not, it's up to you. But there isn't a lot of space. It's not a very big temple in the first place. But you basically are now in the presence of this thing. All three of you. Sako, you roll another whiz save, but you do so with advantage. Peter Peter whiz save with advantage. Kitas and Navarro, just a flat whiz save, no advantage. Damn. All right. Well, Peter, you still feel similar to you did previously, where you just like you feel choked up almost. Like you can move. You know that if an emergency were to happen, you'd be able to react. You'd be able to move and talk as needed. But you feel hesitant to do so. Like you're just a little bit choked up, a little bit in awe. Like there's just a lump in your throat. Navarra, you feel perfectly comfortable, and you can. This definitely feels abnormal and strange. And in fact, actually, just specifically for Navarre, there's a little bit of familiarity here that the other two don't feel. Kiedis, you're locked in place. Like you're just frozen in awe of this at the moment. Not scared necessarily, but you don't feel like if someone were to lob a rock at your head, you wouldn't be able to dodge in time. Is how I'd say that. But you're all kind of just locked in place and almost slack-jawed staring at this, and you hear that same kind of cacophonous booming voice in your heads that you heard inside the cave, all three of you, and it says, I remain trapped, and there's no movement on this thing, by the way. The mouth doesn't move, there's nothing, it's just purely in your head. It says, I remain trapped here, but your actions have brought me comfort. Would you continue? Would you break this bubble and restore the apotheosis? Or are we damned to lose another world to the ravenous? It says that. Becky, you're the only one that can reply. So you're the only one that rolled high enough to, you're the only one that rolled high enough to be able to talk. So I mean, technically Peter could too, but
yeah, we'll do everything we can to break it. That's what we're trying to do.
The form in front of you, if that thing is Ben with a customer or something?
No, I'm here.
That's weird. I was hearing like you talking, but I think it was my own echo somehow. Maybe like in my own head, our voices don't sound the same, but other people have said so. Anyway, the form in front of you, the head tilts just the tiniest bit, almost an imperceptible amount, but tilts just slightly to one side. And it says, I sense the Idrilim stain on each of you, and yet I sense no corruption. How is this?
We don't know.
There's a moment of contemplation is how you translate this, where there's no response, and then she says, well, I must know. Stand still. I'll seek the answers in your minds. And then each of you in your minds are shown something akin to watching TV, like a TV screen of your own memories in first person, as the same as you experienced them. You each are seeing just this fast-forwarded flash by flash version of your own childhoods, your own awkward teenage years, your respective schooling and family lives. These just continue passing by with just a rapid blur, like the entity controlling this is holding down the fast-forward button on a movie of your individual lives, until, for all three of you, the movie turns to static. Each of you watch this black and white snow pattern, like a TV that's tuned to a channel that doesn't exist, and you hear frustration in the entity's voice, and it rings out in this deafening cacophony. It just echoes through your minds as it did in the cave. It says, in an angry tone that makes your bones vibrate inside your body, you hear, what is this? Why have you forgotten?
Forgotten what?
A similar contemplative moment where it doesn't respond for a second, and then not answering your question, but instead probably thinking out loud almost. It says, so much time lost. Did they do this to you? And then just as rapidly as it appeared, that static disperses, returning you to your kind of regularly scheduled broadcast of your lives. The fast-forwarding slows a bit. Peter, you see Carrie and Lotho out on that rain-slicked dirt out in front of Denrith as the earth splits up and swallows the hold. You watch the haft of the Ranshead's hammer slip from that stranger's grasp as he leaps off the edge and kills himself. Kiedis and Navarre, you guys see yourselves in the basement of the mansion in Auberd, talking to the surgeon named Jack, just as Morrow bursts through the door and stabs him mercilessly. You see yourselves retrieving the Oculus. Fast forward a little bit further, and you see yourselves opening the Corium safe on the tram in Mahadrakam, revealing the Ramshead hammer there. Blitzing forward further again, you see the blackened and charred corpse of that stranger who ignited the blaze that destroyed Phandalin, as you retrieve the Firestorm cloak. Forward again, you watch the cherry blossoms that are floating on the wind as Lindy and Shay's bodies melt into the tree trunk, and you pick up the Vine Lash. Forward again, this time the three of you are together, and you see the crystallized lab, Oliver's lab, and picking up the Caudicus ring from his mother Maureen's hand. And then as you're just kind of fast forwarding through all of these, the finally it just clicks and stops and frozen in place. And it freezes right outside of the dome here, where you're standing with Rodalt, about to climb into that giant cannon outside the dome here, and that's where it stops. And then the voice continues again. It says, I see. You've forgotten everything that mattered. It seems we're all lost then. And then it's silent again for a moment. It says, take back the spear. You won't know what to do with it, but I'll offer what guidance I can. You must try no matter how hopeless. We must restore apotheosis. And then the being extends one long, very flexible, almost an arm, a limb that resembles almost more tentacle than it does an arm because of how it doesn't feel like it doesn't look like there's bones in there. It's like it's plastic almost, but it extends this kind of arm out towards Nivara that ends in a hand, and it's holding what looks like a thin tube of brass with holes in it. And it says, take this, play my song to the spear. It will recognize my dirge and allow you passage.
Thank you.
You lift it out of its hand.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've done that, and Granger this whole time has been eyes closed and staring up at the what would be the sky, almost not reacting to the presence of this thing. And as soon as you've lifted that off of the entity's hand, it begins to kind of collapse in on itself in this kind of smoky form where the exterior of it, the hand that's closest to you, for example, begins to just turn to smoke, and then that smoke is kind of sucked in towards the center of its form, and it continues doing that as it's kind of melting away until there's just this one small kind of coalescence of this black cloud in the middle again. And it begins to kind of lift up and drift off, and it moves back towards the back of the temple here. And as it moves off enough, and it's kind of as it's getting further and further away from you, you notice that the darkness surrounding the temple is beginning to kind of fade, and is similarly following where this little small orb of it is moving to. And it's moved off enough now that you're beginning to see just that kind of grayscale version of looking behind you. You can see Dry Gulch through this grayscale until that itself even passes, and it's basically all back to return to normal. There's no more sunbeam. The place looks completely as it did the first time you came here. Granger's still kind of eyes looking up towards the sky, and then a half second later, the three of you are all kind of completely back to normal. You're not frozen or anything anymore. And Granger kind of looks around, opens his eyes, looks at you guys, says, well, I guess I don't really know what to do then if she wasn't answering. What are you doing?
Are we all back to normal now?
Yeah, you're all returned to normal.
I was just talking to the crew here. What do you think we make a beeline for the cave and use that thing on the door?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, one thing real quick though. She said that we've forgotten, right? All three of us?
Speaking of, perfect timing that I'm hearing like static in the background all of a sudden. I don't know where it's coming from. You guys hear that?
Yeah.
Funny. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Sako.
Oh no, she was saying we've all forgotten, and I guess it's something pretty pertinent, pretty important, and it just seems to be in all three of our minds, and all three of us have touched these things, and it has not affected us. You think this has something to do with the Dellens caps?
Yeah, they probably blocked it out, right? That's why it's static even to the Israfel.
It was
Is that what that meant?
Yeah, that was a very familiar static. That's exactly what it felt like.
Okay.
So the static you were seeing was like a visual representation of the static you've felt in your own heads before you were inoculated. So when you, for example, for Peter, when Carrie and Lotho were talking about the hammer and asking you how you were resisting that, and it was staticked out for you, you were only hearing it, and that was kind of an audible or a mental representation of it, and you didn't see it. What you were watching there when she was showing it to you looked exactly like it looked how that felt, if that makes sense. So it definitely felt very familiar for sure.
So we can probably make an assumption for now that we've all been affected by the Dellens cap. Someone wiped something from existence from our minds.
And as you guys are having this conversation, and Granger is still like confused and has no idea what it is you're talking about because he's hearing static, 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 static. He doesn't know what a Dellens cap is. He can't hear those things. So he's very confused. remember from his well, okay, so from his perspective, you've gathered that he didn't feel anything happen. He didn't see that Israfel came here or anything. He basically didn't notice anything at all. He was looking up at the sky, felt really warm, and then it all passed and nothing happened. The temple is not any different. It's still in the same physical shape as it was before. He's very confused and doesn't know what's happening and is like getting to almost a level of panic, like he trusted you guys with something and Wallace is standing there. And like this is some kind of a trap maybe. He definitely feels uncomfortable, but I mean, doesn't mean you guys need to stop your planning. It just means that that's where his kind of mental state at the moment.
Should we tell him that we saw Israfel or keep it to ourselves?
I'm thinking we need to make a beeline for the force field, but I think maybe we should fill him in along the way.
Okay. What do you think, babe?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So you guys, time-wise, you are expecting this just enough. So go ahead and roll dex saves with advantage on all three of you.
Damn.
Well, so much for your good roll earlier. Peter and Ketis, you guys were, you hadn't really spoken to this thing, and you were very aware, I guess, of the clock and knowing that this was going to happen. The ground begins to shake under your feet. It is 11:30, and the earth kind of is violently just shaking around. Navarre, you were not paying attention to that, having just spoken to, what is essentially a god as far as, the mortal peoples of the planet are concerned. And you don't even know this is coming at all, and you get shaken directly off your feet. Roll a not dex save, a sleight of hand on Peter. That's good enough. Peter, you see she's about to fall. You just snake a hand out real quick and grab her wrist to keep her from falling flat on her face, and kind of steady her to help her stand up. Navarre, you don't end up falling the whole way. You just happen to be close enough to grab her to keep her from falling. But the ground is shaking. You're hearing panic in the town again. You hear the kind of glasses and stuff falling off at a distance from the general store. You hear the horse neighing, and in fact, this time you actually see it. You hear the horse neigh, and then hear clop, 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 clop as it goes running off towards the west, just south of the temple where you guys are. And everything is beginning to calm. You look over and see Wallace outside, and Wallace has the bird is open mouthed and is staring at the town, like obviously wanting to go and check on things and help people there, but not doing so because he hasn't been given the freedom to go and do so. But you're standing there. The earthquake has now happened. It is now 11:30. What are you guys doing?
Still gonna
I'm
do
sorry,
like we're talking.
you were kind of cutting out on me on that one, so I'll go with what the group says.
So he asked what we were going to do, so just carry on with the same plan?
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah, we couldn't get into that door because it had some type of force field, but it sounds like this flute or whatever you were given.
It looks like a recorder, yeah, like an old style flute. Basically just a tube. It's a brass tube with holes in it that if you held the holes would make different tunes, that kind of thing.
Keep going with that.
I said make a beeline for it since we already know how to get to the caves. Everything's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
All right, we will hand wave past enough of it to get you there then. You rush down towards the thing. It's still going to take you some time. You know what, actually, in fact, damn it. Tell you what, do you say out loud what your plan is? You guys saying this to each other out loud what the plan is?
I'm assuming that we would have, right? I mean, we can't go back on that because we would have been having to talk vocally. Might not have been loud, but we still would have had to been talking. So.
Tell you what, here's what's going to happen. Because of something you guys missed so far, we're going to hand wave past this portion of it, but you make it down there, you rush as fast as you can, and you guys remember when you made it to that door, there was a very long minecart ride where you were riding down the minecart and there was those bone bugs on the ceiling and all that stuff. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Well, as you guys are traveling through that giant mine shaft, which is the primary shaft A, as you guys are traveling along that, you know that you're just running out of time. There's just no way you're going to make it. And sure enough, as soon as you are kind of almost there, but still not enough time to have done anything about it, the clock begins ticking over the clock tower in town begins to go off. and it times all the way through. You hear the 12th bell, and as it does, you hear the furious scream coming. This time is echoing, just ear-piercingly loud, like your eardrums shattering from it kind of sound, because it's so close, of the worm in the shaft just ahead of you, just before you get there. As it finally gets its way through the dome breaks, the worm begins to burrow underneath the town. Everything begins to collapse. You all die. You wake back up in the white space. This time, the old woman, is looks like a skeleton draped in leather, and is laying flat on the floor, holding the spear up as best that she appears to be able to. Both hands trying to hold it straight up, and it's still tilting off to one side. Does not look very good, but you ran out of time. And you are back in front of Wallace, on the ground in the dirt. And what are you doing?
Yeah, alright.
Do I still have the flute? Or do we have to go back and get it again?
You, in fact, do. You actually reach into your bag, and sure enough, it is right where you left it.
Okay.
There's actually, you guys, there was a shortcut to get down there, but it doesn't matter. I mean, if you had a whole hour, which you would potentially this time if you chose to do it that way, then you could make it there. There was a shortcut that you would have been able to get there faster, but you guys hadn't found it, is all. So, doesn't really matter though.
Okay.
Shoot, might have been the cave. Darn. Well, we got time now, so if we run straight in, that's about what, 15 minutes, 20 minutes?
The cart ride was 15 minutes, so it'll probably take you about, to get all the way through the cave to get there is going to be about 15, so you'll get there back to that door just after the earthquake if you just run straight there, which still gives you half an hour or 29 minutes to get things figured out without using the shortcut. The shortcut would get you straight there, but you guys hadn't found it. So. I wouldn't normally bother telling you that, but you guys are right at the end anyway, so it doesn't really matter at this point. So what's the plan?
What do you guys?
What do you think? Beeline it, guys? Give us
Let's go.
about 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, first we need to take control of Wallace, so say Junebug.
Yep.
Okay.
Take control of Wallace. Make sure we patch up the wall
Patty,
so she doesn't
yeah.
break out.
You don't want to get brained with it. You don't want to get brained with a shovel while you're down there.
You forget that one little thing might fuck everything up. It's not a good idea. So.
Yeah, then you end up with one more loop, and this time maybe the old lady doesn't survive. All right, so who's taking Wallace?
I don't care. You want him against Sokka?
Sure, I'll take him.
Okay. All right. So Wallace is just chomping along beside you, just barely behind enough to be able to follow orders, and you guys go stomp, 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 stomp all the way back over towards the quarry. You head down inside. You follow the same path you had previously. This time, though, so you come back to the part where Nivara had melted using stone to mud. She melted that, but of course it is back to normal now, and Wallace can't fit. So what's the plan?
Can I tell Wallace to just punch through that as hard as he can? Because it's a big fat rock.
He says, sure, if that's what you'd like me to do. Go ahead, and because I want to give, it was Peter's idea, I want to give Peter some authority of how successful that ends up being. I'm going to use his modifier, but go ahead and make a strength check for me. Basically, your strength won't matter. I'm just going to use his. I just want your d20 roll to be the factor, rather than me rolling it and telling you whether it's successful or not. You rolled a 4, so that's not very good. But his modifier was a... Where is it? Hang on, I gotta find it. I had stats for him, but I didn't put him in the combat tracker, so I gotta look him up. Wallace is... Oh shit, his 28 strength, so his modifier is +9. He steps forward. Do you guys try to step back or anything? Like, you're just gonna stand there? You don't want to shower, Roxanne? Alright. So you guys step back. Ketis, you kind of throw your shield up to kind of block you guys a little bit. Not to get any shrapnel that heads your way. Except for your knees. You're going to end up with bruised knees. But he swings at it, and you hear just this loud echoing crash, and unfortunately you begin to hear the beams above you, the wooden supports above you, crack also with that. It doesn't get through. He punches again, and there's this booming kind of blast, and you hear those wooden beams above you begin to split even further. And he punches a third time, and finally you hear like an avalanche kind of a sound where the rocks just kind of burst out, and you kind of peek around the shield, and sure enough, there is a big enough hole that he can fit through it. You guys can fit through it. The beams above you do not sound healthy any longer. Go ahead and roll a We'll call it another deck save, actually, to try to just rush through it before the beams begin to crack. Need to beat a 10, so far you got 17, 16, and 17. Cool. So you hear them cracking. You kind of thought that this might be the case, that you knew this place wasn't very sturdy, but you're not expecting to have to go back during this arc. Or during this this loop, if it were to loop again. So you know, as this happened, you've kind of pushed him through. You know, he was already prepared for this, but he kind of begins to step through, and you guys rush in right behind him. And just as the tunnel behind you begins to cave in, just filling the whole place with thick dust, like you can barely see for a minute as the stuff slowly begins to settle. And you're kind of just covering your mouth to keep from choking, but sure enough, you're on the other side of it. You only lost a minute or so no big deal there. But you continue on your way. You make it to the carts. You've gone through the traps. You've disarmed the trap, DISARM, all that stuff, and you make it to the carts. And now you got to figure out what you're going to do here. You have 2 usable carts that are in front of. Sorry, was it 3 usable carts? It was 3 usable carts, and then one that was full of like ore. But 2 of them have broken wheels. So you're back there with these carts. Wallace is too big to be able to share a cart with you guys. So what's the plan?
Can we ask Wallace to remove the ore out of that cart, and he can ride in one, we can ride in the other?
So yeah, the ore cart was the wheel is fine on that one, and you guys, the one that you used previously, was fine. And then there were 2 with broken wheels. So he says, sure enough, yeah, no problem, I can do that. And he's over there just kind of throwing out these lumps of what look almost like coal, just this really dark ore. And he's just tossing out, you know, as if they weigh nothing. He's picking them up like they're made of styrofoam, one in each hand, and just flinging them off to the walls just over and over again until he kind of empties this thing out enough that he can get into it. He says, "Okay, you want me to get in here then, right?"
Yeah, let's cruise.
So he hops on in, and you guys, he's now basically sitting in the cart that is attached to yours. What are you guys doing?
We need to pull the brake and get going, or what?
Yeah,
Or do
pull
we
the
need to give
brake.
it a push start?
I think we could just get going with it, but I'm thinking about the end. We might need to bail, because that's a lot of momentum.
In fact, as soon as you're thinking that, and you guys have kind of started trying to move it, you get in the cart, and it's not fucking budging. There's like his weight is way more than the coal that was in there previously, because he's so much larger. And remember that the 2 you left them connected. You did last time too, but you left them connected. So the cart that you guys are going to use is still attached to the one that he's in. So I mean, he's got long enough arms. He could probably reach down and kind of push it along like a kid sitting on a skateboard. But otherwise, this thing's probably not going to move unless you detach them.
One question from before. We watched him grow to massive proportions, obviously in the bank when that was going down.
Mm-hmm.
Could we ask him to shrink down to the size of a small pebble?
He tells you, I don't really know, how I did that, to be honest. But I mean, looking at him, go ahead and roll an insight check on Peter. Sorry, I just bumped my mic.
Oh, hold on, that's deception.
Yeah, that was deception, actually. Good, because that was a real crappy roll. Well, so you rolled a 5 for your deception roll. Your insight roll, you rolled a 4, so that is a similarly crappy roll. I'll still give you kind of a general idea of this. You can't really piece together quite why, but you're getting the impression that probably wouldn't work for some reason. For Sako, Peter doesn't quite put this together yet, but for Sako, you look at the size of the rocks, the kind of rock plating essentially that is on this clay, and the rocks themselves can't condense down. It was the clay that was inside that was allowing him to grow. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So I guess our options are, like you said, just have him use his arms and just push himself along, or...
Well, you guys last time, you guys were using the cart itself to pull, which is what it's intended to do. It's able to, to pull like a cart full of coal, but he just weighs so much more than that, and you left him attached. So if you detached it first, your cart could presumably move much faster, and he could move himself.
Do that?
I say roll with that. Yeah.
Okay. There's really not, there's no check or anything needed. The mechanics that connect these two are intended to work this way, and they're not old. They're not so old or rusted or anything like that they're broken. So you basically just, there's a tool nearby that you find. It's just a shaft, essentially. You just pop through the middle of it and rotate it a little bit, and the clasp that connects the two just disconnects. And now Wallace is in his own cart, and you guys have your own. So you're hopping in. All of this extra kind of things that you didn't have to deal with on the previous loop because you guys came by yourselves has added a few minutes. You're now looking at about, let's see, it's 11:35 right now. So the bank robbery would happen in 10 minutes. Doesn't sound like that's going to happen. You guys left Granger in a, in a different kind of a mind state where he's probably not feeling like robbing a bank. But you guys have kind of hopped in the cart, begun your path. This time, as soon as you get out over the, basically last time you started to see them because you were just before the earthquake, starting to hear, as the earthquake happened, the cracks that were happening in the ceiling and those bone bugs, the bugs that look like they're covered in bones, starting to scramble out. But this time, you barely even get out over the main shaft, and they are swarming. There's more. You see more bug than you see surface of rock. Is how many there are out there. And as you're traveling along, you're seeing them falling on the track in front of you, falling all over the place, like they're just climbing on top of each other, and occasionally some of them lose their footing, and they're raining down from the ceiling on you. Each of them are about probably 8 to 10 inches or so lengthwise, and look like a giant cockroach covered in bones, essentially. But they're raining down on you very rapidly. None of them have hit the cart yet, but I say yet. So are you guys doing anything? Are you trying to defend yourselves in any particular way?
I'm gonna pop my shield up.
I'll
see
use
if it can cover us.
prestidigitation. I'll push out a little bit of wind in front of us to keep them off the tracks, keep things clear.
Ah, that's a good idea. Okay. Becky, anything?
I don't think I have anything. I think I'm just about out of spells and stuff.
Okay. I mean, you've still got first level, third level, fourth, and sixth level spells, but yeah. But so go ahead and actually roll. Let's do insight again on Peter, just for intuition on kind of where you're aiming this prestidigitation to keep this kind of general airflow going. If there isn't one on the track, if you're kind of aiming it around, okay. And then for Ketis, roll a flat wisdom check, not save, but check. Well, thankfully Peter rolled really well. It trying to kind of force these things out of the way as they're falling. These things don't look individually very dangerous. You could probably squash them with a boot, but you expect, based on kind of the surrounding area and things like that, these might be dangerous as far as if you were to get bitten or anything of that sort. But you do keep the shield up, and you actually hear it twice as you're traveling along, of one of them kind of smacking against it, and you hear just this dull kind of splattering sound. You know that your shield's going to be covered in this disgusting ooze. But you kind of shake them and throw them off to the one side. Peter, as these things are falling, it's like playing Missile Command. You're just kind of pushing them out of the way with the little air blast as you're traveling along this corridor till you get towards the end. You're coming up near the end. Wallace is moved himself on, keeping him similar pace with you guys. You look back and see that he's got 4 different bugs just hanging on his head. Hang on, I got delivery. I'll be right back, guys. 1 second.
$5 says the jar of bees.
See, the bees can fight off all the bugs. You might want to open it.
Yeah, if it gets too crazy.
Alright, I'm back. You're still here?
Yep.
Amazon jar of bees.
Yeah, it was a DHEA. Close enough to a jar of bees. But you look behind you and see that he doesn't seem all that concerned about them. Like, maybe he doesn't have a lot of nerve endings in that rock. But he's just covered in these stupid bugs. As you guys have made your way towards the end, and you see the kind of stopper thing at the end of the tracks coming up. You still have about 60 feet. What are you guys doing?
Scream back at him to start slowing down, and then start pulling our brakes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you hear, a similar sound to all the earthquakes and things like that you've heard as he's kind of digging his giant stone hands into the somewhat loose dirt, trying to slow himself down. And you guys have yanked on your brake. There's a squeal of the wheels as it comes slowly to a kind of rolling stop. It comes up to it. You've now made it to the end of the tracks. Nobody's harmed. Wallace's cart, he slowed himself down enough that everybody's fine. He hops out of the cart. You guys are in front of the door. As soon as you go through this door, which you're able to open, you can disable the bomb the same way you did last time. You can get through this door, but on the other side of this door are 2 earth elementals that are beating on the final door.
Should we have Wallace go over there and whip their asses? Throw them off the side of throw them in the pit?
It's a possibility. What did we use last time to nuke them?
You guys fought him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wallace might help us out. Grow kind of big, punch him off a cliff or something.
Well, that is right over the giant shaft that leads down to the worm.
Yeah, let's just have them throw those guys off.
Okay. All right, you guys open the door then, and very carefully disable the bomb, of course, and Junebug and send Wallace in. He says, sure thing, I'll take care of him. And he heads on in. You hear a little like 1960s Batman show, like boom, pow, kaplap, like the stupid sounds of the noises as he's kind of dealing with them, and you hear the rocks kind of tumbling down as he's throwing them over the edge. And sure enough, you head in, and now this giant room that is 300 feet across, you're able to walk away on the outside of it, basically, but you are now standing outside of the doorway with the shimmering field in front of it, where Peter spoke to someone on the other side, someone that spoke about a girl and so on, which was presumably Isaac, but you're in front of that door again. What are you guys doing?
I guess just play the flute, or...
Yeah.
Roll a well, who's doing it? Navarra?
I'm not rolling, no way. I'll roll 2.
You rolled a 2 on that last one, so...
Alright, so performance?
Yeah, performance on Navarra.
Damn.
You're standing in front of this thing, and you pick this tube up, but it doesn't look like any musical instrument you've ever seen. You'd think that you'd have just some familiarity with it, that if it was intended to be musical, you would just have some natural affinity to it, but apparently not. You can get one more roll, and then somebody else has to try. And if you fuck all these up, you're gonna have to make a whole nother loop. Hey!
Yes!
So the first attempt, like, I don't know, maybe you hurt your finger on the way down or something, and you just weren't playing it quite right. But this time you got it in line, just as you're hearing this kind of melodic sound out of this thing that it sounds very different, of course, because this isn't an instrument that you've ever heard before. But it sounds very smooth, and the cadence of it begins to reverberate in a way that is aligning with the kind of shimmering color of this field that's covering the door, and as you're playing against it, the kind of just matching the tone of that, just almost expertly, you just continue keeping up with the movements and the kind of rainbowish this coloration that's in this thing, like an oil bubble, like a soap bubble, that kind of coloration in there, just playing against the tune, and the field begins to kind of dim a little bit, and as you keep it up, and this takes a good solid 3 or 4 minutes or so of you playing this tune and keeping up with it, and you notice that every time you mess up slightly, the field begins to brighten again, but as long as you keep with the tune, it begins to get dimmer and dimmer until it looks like it's just gone. You don't see anything there. What are you guys doing?
Head on in.
Let's do it.
Huh?
Navarro? You put the thing down.
Should we keep it? Put it
Yeah,
back?
we should probably keep it.
Well, but you took it down, meaning you're not playing anymore?
Oh, no, I figured I'd be playing while I walk through, especially
Okay.
if I stop and it gets stronger. So.
Okay, that's okay. All right, so as long as you're keeping playing it, then the door is the door still closed, just the field is gone that was blocking it. So who's doing what?
I guess I'll open the door or something like that while the field is down.
Okay. Wallace is still with you too, so don't forget that. But yeah, so you guys, this door actually is not covered in the dust and dirt and age. The other ones that they had, like, they still moved, but they just had grit and everything in them. And this one feels brand new. It just like it's smooth. It moves so smoothly that you wouldn't expect a door of this size and kind of weight to it would be able to slide that smoothly over. But you have no difficulty to it whatsoever. Even Peter's not the strongest guy, but he still has no trouble moving this thing over. And as the door swings open, you see before you another room that looks just like the one that you're leaving. It's a giant hole in the center of this massive chamber. You're still hearing the kind of grumbling sounds from the hole behind you, by the way, which is where the worm still is chewing at the field. But you still have some time left. You're at 11:41, 11:42-ish, maybe somewhere thereabouts after Becky's playing, or Navarro's playing. But anyways, another giant hole just like that right in front of you. So one behind you, one directly in front of you through this doorway. There's a sign above you that reads Shaft B. But directly in front of you, beside the hole, stands a small girl, just a little 7-year-old girl, leaning on a sparkling staff with a decorative headpiece to the staff. It's a glimmering platinum in the shape of a diamond with an eye at its center. The girl's eyes are just wide with terror. She says, "Don't let him get me." She's stammering over it, like kind of trying to, very scared, trying to get these words out, basically. Peter, you immediately recognize that the symbol on the top of that staff is the symbol for the arcane rill divination specifically. It's your symbol for your school of magic. And a few feet away from the girl, on the ground, leaning against a rock, is a middle-aged man in a black cowboy hat and dusty boots. He's holding a cigarette in one hand, just up to his mouth, and his intestines in the other.
Kind of breaking up here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Couldn't really hear you.
Sorry. I'll move the mic back in there. So a few feet away from this girl, though, on the ground, and he's leaning against a rock, is a middle-aged man with a black cowboy hat on and dusty boots. He's smoking a cigarette with one hand, and he's holding his intestines in the other. Just grievously wounded. This man looks like he's very close to death's door. You notice that with each heartbeat, there's blood pouring out between his fingers. So, you'll see blood pool out between his fingers, and then it stops for a second, and then again, and just rinses and repeats over and over again. The man is kind of ignoring the girl. He says through gritted teeth, he says, I didn't think you guys would make it. I'd offer y'all a cigarette, but I've only got the 2 left, unless you want to wait a few more minutes, and then I'll have 3 again. What do you guys do? You've got Wallace behind you, who you presume to be June, and Isaac in front of you.
Shit, I have no idea.
You've only had this entire arc to figure out what you wanted to do with these when you got here.
Exactly. That's what I have no idea.
Navarro, any ideas?
Ask about if they know how to stop the worm, right?
Yeah,
Is
but
that
it's
the
not
point?
really. It's not really the worm that we have to stop, though, right? Because we just have to bring whatever's going to bring the bubble down.
Roll
Okay.
on Navarro. Roll a wisdom check, just a flat wisdom check. In fact, roll it with advantage. There you go. All right, so specifically because Navarro was very familiar with the creature, well, not very, but familiar with what the, let's say, familial connection was between the creatures that you've seen. Remember the very first session of this arc? Do you remember what what happened?
Yeah, there were the babies outside of the bubble.
Yeah, so this one inside here, Navarro intuits that this one inside here is just trying to get back out, trying to get back to the juveniles that were outside. That's why it's chewing through the dome, and it chewing through the dome in its rage, it because it was stuck here for so long, it destroys the town, and that's what kills everybody. So do whatever you want with that information, but that's what you've kind of put together based on what you'd seen down here.
So
So the mom needs to either be stopped or we gotta get her to her babies, one or the other.
Yeah. So,
The room in front of you, just a hole just behind these two, you do see mine carts. There's 4 different mine carts there, and they're on tracks that head towards where, just about, not quite perfect, but the lineup does have to be close. in the direction of the outside of the dome where you left Rodalt and the cannon. So they kind of are faced that direction. But you still need to figure out what you're going to do with June and Isaac. And she's holding what you expect is the spear, the chrono spear that you guys are after.
Does she seem enthralled with it right now, or is she kind of mellowed?
She is panicked. She's terrified. She thinks that... Okay, so the field that was blocking the door was also blocking Isaac from getting to her. And now you've broken that field.
Alright, then I guess we probably need to get control of Isaac then, don't we?
Well, she's a little girl. She doesn't necessarily know any better, but he's basically dying. He's holding his intestines in his hand, like he's bleeding out, like with a gut wound.
Should we try to save Isaac or not?
Yeah, I say we split. One, we calm her down. The other checks on Isaac, but we're going to make a beeline for that sphere.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
then I will go over and check on Isaac because I can see if I can heal him a little bit if you guys want me to.
All right, I'll make a walk over to the girl.
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll start then with Isaac. What are you doing, Ketis?
Yeah, my Stridos came back, so I'm just gonna give him a full Stridos and see if he's not too far gone yet. So.
All right. So you approach him and kind of then lean down because he's on the floor. He's just leaned against a rock, but he's otherwise kind of laid out. And he's got a cigarette in his mouth, and he sees you kind of approaching him, trying to give him something, and he shakes his head at you and waves it away with a cigarette in his hand. He says, "What is this? I don't know. What are you trying to do?"
You can keep your ass alive if you want to live.
There is just the most exasperated sigh coming from him that you immediately recognize as that's the last thing he wants. And in fact, actually, when you guys were standing on the other side of the door, he had told, one, Peter had read the journal, and you guys, he told you about that, and in there specifically, he said that, he just wants it to be over. They've been repeating this loop over and over and over again, and he's been dying that entire time. He's had this gut wound since the beginning of when time started looping. So he has been trying to get into June to make her stop, and that was what was... Not that part wasn't written in the journal, but that's what the information that Peter kind of gathered when he was talking to Isaac through this door last time you were here. He was just trying to get to June to make her stop looping time, even if it meant Dry Gulch being destroyed. At least it would mean that it would.
You're breaking up a lot. I didn't catch any of that.
Sorry. I need to figure it because this microphone isn't quite ideally laid out. Basically, Isaac was trying to stop June from looping time. So he does.
So that way he could die. Does he want to die?
He moves your hand away and is not talking necessarily. He's he's not fully there anymore. You guys are a little later this time than you were in the last loop. So time-wise, he's pretty well faded, and doesn't have a lot of his kind of mental faculties about him anymore. But he pushed your hand away specifically when you told him that you were trying to keep him alive.
I could always just use heal on him and not give him a choice.
Well,
Yeah,
if we don't
you
need
definitely
him, I don't care. It's up to you guys.
It's up to you. What are you guys doing?
Well, I guess we should just take care of June then.
Okay.
See if we can get the spoon.
Okay. All right, then, Peter, you were going to talk to June. What are you doing?
I'm going to ask her, what's going on, trying to find out why she's so panicked and see if I can get my mind around what she's freaking out about.
I guess specifically, what do you... Give me verbatim. What are you asking? Because that's a few different things, and a 7-year-old wouldn't understand that.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of what to say because I couldn't really hear the first time what you were saying the first time, but she was scared of something or someone, I think.
She was scared of Isaac.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll calm her down and say Isaac is Isaac's incapacitated right now, so he's not going to hurt you. We're here to protect you. He's not going to come after you anymore, and try and calm her down. We
are here to protect you from the terrible secret of space.
Yes, all your spears are belong to us.
She, as you kind of interpose yourself, where you've kind of walked up between her and Isaac, she does. Like you see the kind of tense, shoulders and everything like relax a little bit, and she looks up at you. She's very small, She looks up at you and says, "Just don't let him get me." And obviously, motioning over towards Isaac, who is laying on the ground.
I'll keep an eye on Isaac, make sure he doesn't move.
Okay.
Go after her at least.
All right. So the both of you are now kind of standing between the two of them. They're a good 8 feet apart. Like there's plenty of space for you guys to be between them. She says, "He killed my daddy." Specifically to Peter. What are you doing, Taco?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just heard the word killed.
He killed my daddy, is what she says. I'm turning the music down
Gotcha.
a little bit.
We don't know yet who her daddy is.
Her dad was Jack, who Isaac killed.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, the whole thing that you read in the journal about Isaac pushing Jack and then finding June there with the spear, that's what that was.
Yeah, now it's coming back. All right. Well, let's see if I can kind of finesse my way over to the sphere and see if I can take that from her area.
It's a spear. It's really a staff with a decorative tip on it that is a diamond shape, and therefore it resembles a spear. So it's basically just a staff with a sharp point on the top. That's all. And that the sharp point on the top is the divination symbol. It's a diamond with an eye in the center. Does that make sense, Sako?
Yeah.
Okay. So she's holding it, and she's kind of relaxed it a little bit, but she's holding it. What are you trying to do?
Said, mind if I take this dangerous spear away from you real quick, just to make sure everything's safe?
She roll a persuasion actually on Peter. I realized, by the way, that I had the fan kind of facing me, and I think it might have been blowing into the microphone a little bit. Is it any better now, or is it still the same?
A little bit better.
Okay.
A little bit better. Still cutting out, but
Okay.
it's a little better.
We'll have to troubleshoot it some more, figure out what the fucking problem is, because it didn't used to do that ever. I don't know why it's been different now, but I've had to make so many changes to the audio settings that it's probably something that I missed. Anyway.
Is it just me, or is it you guys too? Or are you getting the cutoffs too from Jeremy?
Yeah.
You getting it too?
He's
Okay.
cut out.
What if it's network? Because my side says voice is all green, like it doesn't show any problems there, and my ping is only 22 milliseconds, so that's not bad. Maybe. Okay, I'm watching the thing. It might be this. Let me try something here real quick. All right, you guys hear me at all? Anything?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, let me leave it like that for a little while. I set the sensitivity to maximum, basically, so if there's any sound, you should hear it, but it's going to mean that my mic is permanently on, essentially. As long as I can still hear you, it's fine, and so far I can hear you. So we'll try it like that for a little while and see if that's any better. It should pick up even if I'm talking quietly, basically, which I try not to, but, if sometimes, especially for narrative purposes, sometimes I do it not on purpose, but just because it's the end of a sentence and that kind of thing. But anyway, let's see. That was performance, actually, so I'll go try persuasion.
Persuasion coming up.
Okay. You look down at her and you ask if she'll kind of let you borrow the staff or the spear, and you see she's looking up at you, and there's still kind of tears in her eyes a little bit, but she doesn't hand it to you as much as she kind of just tilts her arm forward and lets you kind of put your hand around it, and then she just lets go, and you're now holding the chrono spear. What are you guys doing?
All right, we still got this worm issue, don't we?
And speaking of, that worm issue is getting louder and louder behind you.
Well, if we can just figure out how to get the bubble down, the worm won't be an issue anymore.
I'm guessing the spear probably has something to do with getting the bubble down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You thinking doing the?
Go ahead, Sako.
I was just thinking, what if the spear needs to be used to kill that worm? What if the worm is just a representation of something, and you just Zelda Link to the Past down thrust into it with it?
As you, you gotta hold A. You gotta hold A and down. That's pretty tricky, especially on that stupid N64 controller. You gotta hold the lock-on button, which was Z on the back, and then you had to hit like down on the control stick and A, I think. Back then that was complicated. But anyways, as soon as you've said that, because you guys are kind of communicating back and forth to each other, and Isaac is just like gurgling at this point, and he's not making sounds anymore, or he's not making vocal sounds at all anymore. and you see actually when he pulls the cigarette away from his mouth that there's blood all over the mouth part of the cigarette. Isaac is kind of looks like he's barely there anymore. But June, as soon as you said, maybe we need to kill it, eyes go wide and she panics. She says, "No, you gotta promise. I gave you that spear. You don't kill it. It's just a mama. It just wants its babies."
Fine, I guess we just gotta get rid of the dome then.
Roll a wisdom, just a flat wisdom check on Navarre. Roll it with advantage.
Didn't we obliterate her babies out there?
No, they ran away.
No.
Yeah.
Specifically, I thought you guys were going to, which was going to make something very interesting for me, but Navarre had to go and ruin that by talking to animals and telling them that it was safe and they could just run off. So that's what they did. You guys like busted one of its mouth open a little bit, and other than that, I think they were
got
unharmed.
hit.
Yeah. But Peter, you still have a nice nasty wound on the shoulder where one of them bit you on the shoulder. That's been coming back with each loop. Specifically, Navarra, though, when you were speaking with Israfel and she told you that she would that it was hopeless anyways. Let me find it exactly. She said that. You won't know what to do with it, but I will offer what guidance I can. We must try, no matter how hopeless. We must restore the apotheosis. She said. Where did it go? It was when she handed you the thing. She said that she would basically give you guidance. That it was kind of hopeless, but she would give you guidance. I don't remember exactly what it was. I might have made or handed you the notes. I don't remember. But anyways, in this specific moment when you guys are standing there, you do notice that even though Peter is holding the spear, he's holding the haft of it, and it's tall. It's a little bit taller than he is, and he's holding it in kind of the center of it, basically. So say 3.5 feet up or something like that, about where his hand is. But even though he's holding it, and it seems like it should be standing straight up based on the way his hand is formed, the way he's holding it, it is tilted slightly, and he keeps kind of riding it. And I think, Peter, you're probably doing this subconsciously a little bit, like as if it's kind of maybe it's top heavy and it's kind of leaning one particular direction, but it kind of starts to lean that way, and you just stand it back up again. But Navarre, you notice that it keeps tilting in the direction of that other shaft, the shaft B, the one in front of you, not the one that the worm is in.
Do we need to go down that motherfucker?
Well, we should at
It's
least
like a
go look and see what's down there.
Divination rod, like a divination rod or something?
Well, Sako, the top of the staff is it is literally the divination symbol. So it's called a spear, but it's really just a staff with this shape on the top of it that is a point, and therefore it looks like a spear. But it's just a staff with the divination symbol on the top, which is a sharp diamond, with a point, and then the divination eye in the center of it.
All right. Did we check in any arcane coming off of that?
The source of all of... Remember when you first came down in here and you felt that this kind of booming, ever-present source of power that was kind of filling the whole place, and you could barely sense anything else because of how bright it was? That's coming off of this staff.
All right, I guess let's just follow where the staff's telling us to go.
Let's do it.
Okay, so you guys are looking into Shaft B to see what's down there?
Yep.
So you saw this a little bit when you were first walking in, but basically in the top of Shaft B, it's not just a hole going straight down like Shaft A was. This one actually goes down at a slope, and it goes down basically just a long cave that is a similar size and shape to the shaft that you rode here, where Wallace was kind of pushing himself along. But there's two different tracks. Just running parallel, they're right next to each other, and each of them have two carts, and the carts are all four empty. The wheels look to be in normal repair. Basically, you just see a shaft with four carts in front of it, like Donkey Kong Country.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
So who's going where? What's the plan? You have Wallace and June with you.
And Wallace is going to need his own. June can cruise with one of us, and then we'd each have one. So I don't care. June can ride with me, or she could ride with one of you guys. I don't care.
Yeah, she can ride with me. I've got the spear anyway.
Okay.
Time has continued to tick by. We're now looking at about 11:53.
Yeah, let's go.
Jump in the cart and roll.
Yeah, things gonna get bad real quick. So, all right. So, sorry, who's going where? What's the plan?
June's with Peter.
Okay.
And then we each have our own cart. Wallace has a cart.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So you guys all hop in. Go ahead and roll initiative, all three of you. Sako, you had advantage on it, so go ahead and roll it again. Because of your apparatus. There you go, that's better. Let's keep the new one. Cool. Alright, you guys all hop in, and as soon as you get in the carts and hear the kind of roaring sounds coming up from behind you that you knew were coming, there's just a little bit closer this time. You don't necessarily know why, but the worm has seemed to have noticed you, let's say, and you're hearing a rumbling coming from behind that sure enough, as soon as you look back this time, you see the phalanges on the front of this thing begin to pop up out of the giant hole where it had been chewing down before. It has now moved itself up and is now facing you, and thankfully the door isn't big enough for this thing to fit through, but that really didn't stop it, because as soon as you guys have hopped in and started moving these carts going forward, the doorway just bursts open and this giant steel plate comes flinging out towards you. We'll say Peter, June, and Wallace are on the left, Kiedis and Navarra are on the right. Roll a dex save on Kiedis and Navarra. The plate goes flying. There's this giant door, which is now just this missile is being launched towards you. You both duck down just in time as this plate goes flinging over your heads, as this worm is now chasing in behind you. That's not the one I wanted, but I'll do that one. I don't want that one either. That'll do. Except that one's too short. But this plate comes flinging out towards you as this purple worm just erupts through the doorway, in this just roaring and furious agony. It's crashing through there. Just the tunnel is beginning to collapse in behind it, but it doesn't seem to be affecting this giant thing at all. And you guys have begun moving forward. There are bugs all over the ceiling. Peter, roll a well, I guess what are you doing? You see bugs beginning to fall towards the cart. What are you doing? You've got June under you screaming and panicking. And Wallace is right behind you.
I assume we're moving in the carts already?
The carts are moving, and as fast as you can get them to go. Wallace is behind you, and you see him kind of with both hands, like you've seen like on subways where you see like a person that doesn't have any legs that is pushing themselves along on a skateboard with their hands.
Hell yeah.
That's what Wallace is doing, and he's just shoving it as fast as he can. Is he what?
Is he begging for change?
Yeah, he's handing out little cards that say, veteran, I need some help, please help.
God bless you.
God bless, exactly. He's handing those out to all the bugs as he passes by.
We'll get the $1 bet going in a minute. I guess we will. I'll keep an eye on the tracks to make sure that those bugs aren't mucking up the tracks.
Okay.
And if they are, then I'll start using my prestidigitation.
Okay. They are. So I mean, we can just say that you're at least throwing that out there. Go ahead and roll a flat intelligence check. I think.
Flat intelligence. All right.
Yeah. Oh, that'll work. Yeah. Okay. So you kind of keep moving along. Both sides rather. So we've got Kiedis in the front on the right side with Navarro right behind him, and then on the left track, Peter and June are in the front, and Wallace is right behind. And you guys are just blazing past as fast as you can, while this giant worm is just tearing through this tunnel, and it is broken through now into this giant mine shaft, which is the same as the one you rode down on earlier, which is about 300 feet across. So a massive shaft, and enough space for this worm to kind of be chasing in after you. And as you guys, for Kiedis actually, you look back behind you. Got your shield up over your head, trying to knock these bugs away as they're falling down towards you. But you look back behind you and see the mouth of this worm beginning to radiate a certain heat from the inside of it. You expect that something's about to come at you. What are you doing?
All right, I'm going to use my shield master, just in case. And then I'm going to yell at everybody to probably get the fuck down.
Yell everybody to duck?
So, yeah, yell at everybody to duck, and then I'm going to pop my shield up, so.
Okay. You are in the front, so you're not helping. You're helping yourself, but you can't really help anybody else with your shield. The ducks still help. That's a free action, which I'll use to give them maybe advantage on it. Go ahead and... Well, Navarra's next actually before him anyway. So Navarra, what are you doing?
I was actually thinking I'm going to use gust of wind, but I need to see if I can use it on a different level because it's a level 2, and
Level
I'm out
2?
of level 2 slots.
You generally can. You can always use a higher level, not a lower level. But
Okay. So
it
then
doesn't.
I
Yeah,
guess
you can
just-
still. It doesn't have any special bonuses to cast it at a higher level, but you can still use a higher level spell to cast it.
Okay, then I guess I'll use level 3 with gust of wind just to try to hold it back, I guess.
Okay. Go ahead and use put the concentration effect up.
Where are we going?
Okay. So you kind of send this out behind you. Go ahead. Yeah. Did you mark off your spell slot?
No, I'm doing that now.
Okay. You kind of aim behind you and just summon all of the air around in this mine shaft and just kind of blow it all back at this thing. You notice that the worm itself is still snaking its way back and forth, just banging against one wall, and then it ricochets off the others. It's kind of just in this fury, just smashing against the sides, trying to chase after you. In a kind of a worming, snaking motion back and forth. And each time it crashes against the wall, it causes the roof to shake some more, and more bugs fall. And it's just this chaos of this whole place beginning to collapse in on you. The wind is blowing all of the bugs right back at it, so it's just being pelted and swallowing all of these bone bugs that are just smacking in the face like a motorcycle helmet. If you're driving really fast through a swarm of mosquitoes. But it's not slowing the worm at all. It doesn't appear to have any. It doesn't appear to have the kind of effect that would be enough. The DC for that is 16, and its natural is a 14. So unless it rolled a natural 1 on its turn, then it's not going to slow it down. But that being said, it had just begun to spit out something molten and hot. It looks like molten rock essentially inside of its gullet. That you see this kind of heat coming out from. You can feel it even at this distance, and it was about to erupt this out. But as you sent this kind of gust back at it, it begins to cool, and that heat begins to fade a little bit. Like maybe it's just not as molten as it once had been, and maybe now it's just got this giant chunk of solid rock in its throat instead, and it does not get to spit on its round. Is that it for your turn?
Yeah.
Yep. And that's what it was going to do, and since that's kind of it had already kind of prepared for that, it's a little too late. What is Peter? What are you doing? You've got bugs raining down that are mostly being whipped away by this gust of wind that's coming from beside you. It's a little, you're just barely outside the range of it, but there's enough of a vacuum that's kind of whipping them away as they're falling towards you. And then you have your own little prestidigitation that you're kind of using to push into the gust of wind that's pushing it back. But you are coming up to just ahead, and you're kind of whipping your head back and forth and staying very, very calm in the moment from your military training. Looking ahead, you see where the tracks split into a Y shape, and you have on yours, on both or all 4 of the carts rather, have a stick. You can push it left or right, and then front and back. Back being brake, forward being go faster, left meaning go left, right meaning go right. But you've got a brake or a Y shape coming up ahead. What are you doing?
All right, let's take a look here. I'm going to kick that thing over to the right, assuming it's safe to do so at this point.
Both tracks look completely open. You don't see anything obstructing either, but you're going to go right?
Yeah, we're going to kick right.
Is there any particular reason you're going right? Just out of curiosity. Never mind. You're going right.
Yeah, I see where you're going with it, but now I'm thinking because
maybe left sounds really good after you were specifically warned to go right.
Yeah, because she told me to go right, but now I can't trust her.
Maybe those cold dead hands were trying to steer you the wrong direction, literally.
I'm going with good faith on this one, I think. Plus, I got a jar of bees just in case.
Yeah, I mean, that gets you out of any emergency. Alright, so you yank it right?
Yank it right and brace.
Okay, you see, you look down and you see June is just wide-eyed and panicked, but at the same time, like a little bit like a kid on a roller coaster, kind of excited, like just white-knuckled, holding onto the edge of the cart and looking around. Still very afraid of the bugs, does not seem to be that afraid of the worm. Maybe she's just been, sitting next to that worm for 7 years. So a little less panic there. What's Toki doing?
Toki is just chilling out, holding on for dear life on my shoulder.
You've got cat claws digging into your shoulder?
Digging in.
All right, back to Ketis. You guys are at the same kind of crossroads are coming up. You've seen Peter yank the hammer, the arm to the right. What are you guys doing? You've got choice left or right.
Well, I'm following. What do you think, babe?
Yeah.
We should probably stay together. So.
So you yank right then, and you notice that as you guys have, and you basically both yank right, and you hear a small click on the cart underneath you. All four of you do actually, Wallace included, and it begins to veer off to the right as this path splits, and you see that the right side, just ahead of you, as soon as you're getting far enough into the darkness that you can see it, especially from the glow from the worm behind you, it begins to lift up and kind of go up over this ridge, whereas the left track, you can still see it for a little ways, is continuing on the same kind of flat level that it had been. You guys are up above now. And as it goes up ahead a little ways further than that, you see that the track, the earth that the track is in, the dirt, falls away, and instead it is now the racetrack that you're on is being supported by these like train trusses, basically. Like if you've seen a train, think like the Forestdale Bridge or something like that, like a bridge basically is supporting instead of earth underneath it. But you're now basically on this exposed track that doesn't have ground beneath it anymore, and all four of you have where the tracks split, they merged together, and now it is Ketis in order. It's going Ketis, and then Peter and June, then Nivara, and then Wallace at the back. What are you doing?
All right, I'm going to turn and face
Oh,
forward.
shit,
to see
sorry.
what's ahead of us.
Peter, I didn't give you the opportunity to do anything other than turn right. Did you want to do anything else?
Oh,
Not at this time, no. I assume we have good lighting and everything, right?
It's really dim. You're getting a lot of light from the... I mean, you brought your orbs in with you, I presumed, because you had on the previous loop, so I assume you have them kind of floating overhead. Is that what you're using? Taco?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm going to say we'll push the orbs out as far as we can in front.
Okay. Okay, yeah, then as far as lighting, then you're good. Did you want to do anything else on your turn? The turning left or right was a free action. It wasn't going to take your turn. I just forgot if you wanted to do something else.
I think for now we're just on for the ride.
Okay. All right, then for Ketis, so you guys have now lined up. Again, it is Ketis, Peter/June, Nivara, and then Wallace in order there. And Ketis, as soon as you have yanked that and the cart has gone up and you kind of looked ahead and saw that the track falls away, you're still on a safe track. The track itself is fine. It just doesn't have ground underneath it anymore. It's just basically just wood supports holding it up. But as you're going up this and seeing it, you hear a loud clack against the top of your shield, which was just yet another bug. But this time the bug slips off and is now in the cart under your feet. What are you doing?
Step on it.
Roll a strength check.
Okay. Really?
You try to squish it, but you're just so not panicked, but in the moment still focused on some of the other things. You don't really plant your left foot hard enough to get your right foot enough force to do it. You step on it, but it's like stepping on a turtle shell, like it just didn't squish. But it is still in there with you. You have maybe a bonus action, because that was probably your action, so you have a bonus action left. What are you doing?
Nothing. Probably can't really do anything with a bonus action, like try to... Yeah, I don't think I can do much else with it to get rid of it, so
okay.
I will just carry on until it's my next turn.
All right, Navara's turn. What are you doing? You saw a bug fall in Ketis' cart, which is 2 ahead of you. Now Peter's in front of you. And you're still seeing them raining off, and you still see the worm chasing, just banging against each wall. And now it is getting almost to that Y intersection, and as soon as it does, it's basically going to be filling the whole chamber right behind you, which means that the track behind you is getting destroyed very quickly. What are you doing?
Oh, crap. I don't know that I have anything that would repair the track, so I guess just keep
it's being
gust of wind
destroyed.
on it.
It's being destroyed behind you, so it's not necessarily an immediate threat, except if it starts to break the supports. That basically once it gets close enough that it's going to break the supports that the track that you're on is are being held by. That will start to cause the track to shake and wobble, and it might fall. I guess it's less the track that you should be concerned about. It's more that the supports that it's going to be hitting soon.
I don't know. Should I actually hurt the worm, though? Because it just wants out.
Might want to maybe do something to slow down a little bit. Because we can't kill this thing, even if we tried.
You have no chance of killing this thing.
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
Doesn't
but
mean
the
you want to
only
beat it up, but yeah, I mean you
Yeah.
do stuff to slow it
I
down.
don't think
or
we want to do
whatever
any
you
serious damage. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't
Somebody
want to
could
piss
slow
it
it.
off. But I don't think I have anything other than like a wall of fire that would maybe do something. But
It's up to you guys. We might be able to just try to go as quick as we can. Just keep going. It's up to you.
well, I guess I'll just keep gust of wind up in case it tries to spit at us again.
Okay. That doesn't break, by the way. I mean, that's concentration, so that would stay up if you wanted to cast something else also. As long as it wasn't concentration based, the other spell you cast. You still want to just
And
skip?
I've got some. Yeah, until I get through some of these and see what I have.
Okay. All right. What's your AC, Ben? You have your shield up, but it's not going to help you in this case because the bug is beneath you. So your AC is 16 then.
So, yeah.
So you, looking, trying to just keep track of where everything's going on. You tried stomping this one bug. Where you tried to stomp it, your pant leg is open just enough. It's not wide open, but you didn't tuck it into your boots or anything, and you feel this just terrible arcing, like burning pain at your ankle, and you look down and this thing has just scraped against your ankle with this proboscis, this kind of like at the front end of a beetle, like a ant, it's like a pincer ant kind of a thing, has just kind of scraped against your leg with it, and the pain from the scrape doesn't seem like that was it. It feels like there was something in this thing, and you are, go ahead and make a Constitution save.
Save?
Yep, save. So you take 10, whoops, not 4. You take 10 piercing damage and 9 poison damage. So 19 damage. You had 3 temp. You don't have resistance to either of those, right? No, you don't. Okay. There you go. And you feel that this kind of arcing pain that is just bleeding up from that spot in your ankle, where it's just kind of with each heartbeat you feel it kind of pumping through your veins. You are poisoned as well, which will give you disadvantage on skill checks, I think. I don't remember for sure. Let me drop that on you. And it is Peter's turn. What are you doing? You look back behind you and you see the worm, you see that heat kind of building back up in its mouth again. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to use the mage hand if possible. I have a range of 30 feet. Ketis is right in front of me in the cart, I believe, so he's within 30 feet. Is that true?
Yes. He's probably 15 feet away.
May I use the mage hand to throw my hand down in there, grab that bug, and throw it out?
Okay, sure. So you see Ketis kind of try to you didn't necessarily notice the bug fall because he's getting a lot of them falling off of his shield, and this one just hit his shield and then fell into the cart. But you did see him stomp on something and then him kind of panic a little bit as something bit him. So you kind of are intuiting that there's something there, but you can't see the bug, so this is going to be a little bit harder to do. So go ahead and roll sleight of hand, but we'll do it with disadvantage because you can't see the bug. That's good enough. You send the hand in there and almost have to feel away. It's like It from was it Cousin It from the Addams Family? You send your hand in there and are kind of feeling around with this hand, trying to find it until you feel this kind of skittering bug in there, and just pick it up and just toss it off to the side, and that goes flying out. Ketis, you no longer have an occupied cart. You are all alone.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, too.
Bonus action, anything on Peter?
Just bring back up my prestidigitation to keep bugs away from us.
Okay. All right, and you keep blowing them back into the kind of giant gust of wind. In fact, now it's all in one column anyways, and Navarro's right behind you, so basically you're just kind of knocking them straight behind you, and then they just get sucked away immediately just from the strong gust that's flowing out behind you. Toki doing anything?
I'm going to actually drop him down into the cart and just kind of have him hang out with
June?
June.
Okay. You hear her kind of squeal at first, because at first she just feels something touch her and she thinks it's a bug, and looks down and sees. She goes, "Kitty!" and then just starts petting the cat, still kind of staring straight ahead and panicked. Not panicked, but very tense. And it is the worm's turn. Three of you and Wallace feel the whole tunnel begin to warm again, and a very fast, very rapid sense. It goes from being very cool to being extremely hot, so much that you're almost instantly sweating from it. All three of you roll a dex save.
All right.
And I'd say because Ketis did... No, never mind. He told you to duck earlier for the door, so never mind. I was going to give you advantage for that, but that was earlier because of the door. So just a flat dex save, all three of you. Oh, and G, you get a 2 bonus because of your shield mastery thing, because you put it up earlier.
Okay. So, Dex save?
Yep, dex save.
Okay.
Good rolls. Come on, somebody get hit with it.
No!
Ah, somebody got hit with it. Ben may not survive this trip. You, for Peter and Navarra, you guys were further back. Ketis is in the front, and was still dealing with this jabbed wound in his leg. And actually, I didn't attack Wallace. Let me see. Okay. So Peter and Navarra, you guys were kind of feeling that this was coming up behind you. So you both just instinctively looking back, and Navarra, you're kind of aiming this back anyway, so you were watching this coming. You duck your head down out of the way just as this boulder, this flaming ball of molten rock goes sailing out overhead, leaving this trail of lava just falling and kind of sloughing off giant chunks of molten stone down onto the dirt below as it goes sailing overhead. One of the bits of molten rock falls and lands directly on Wallace's head, thankfully not on the bird, but just splashes against the rock, and you see it begin to kind of melt and then begin to merge into the stone that's already there, leaving this kind of nasty black scar where this obsidian basically is kind of soaked into it. He doesn't physically react to it much, but it does look, pretty nasty. It looks like it had to have hurt. As for Ketis, you still have your shield up, which you're able to kind of keep from all this landing straight on your head, but it is still a very nasty burn that you can feel it begin to, just the heat alone is scarring your arm underneath it from how hot it is, and the rest of it just pours onto your shoulder, not onto your head thankfully, but the rest of it just pours onto your right shoulder where your shield is not protecting. You take 27 fire damage. You are heavily injured right now. That could have been a lot worse. Actually, the rolls weren't that high. What, G?
Just a flesh wound.
It's gonna be a bone wound because you're not gonna have flesh left if it keeps burning it off.
That's true. It's gonna be a bone wound.
All right. That if your turn, G, doing anything?
Was it my turn?
Well, it is now. So what are you doing?
Okay. I'm going to heal myself.
Okay.
That's not good. So.
Choke down
Oh,
some
use a
Stridos.
full Stridos.
Okay.
Yeah, use a full one.
Damn, that was a good roll. Okay, bonus action.
And
Did you hit it 4 times?
Just make sure. I was marking them off because I accidentally unmarked it, so
gotcha.
then I marked it back off.
Gotcha.
So
Okay,
make sure my
bonus
shield's
action's
up, and then I think that would be about it. So just make sure I'm keeping an eye on everything. Nothing's falling on the track or whatever.
Yeah, so far so good. You're not seeing... I mean, there's still bugs in here and everything in here. In fact, roll a perception on Ketis.
Okay.
You are beginning to see, because you're looking ahead, even though you just got melted by this thing, whereas Peter and Navarro were looking backwards, you are beginning to see a dim light coming from up ahead.
Okay.
That if your turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Navarro's turn, what are you doing?
I guess I'll try to use animal friendship on it like I did the other ones.
You really just want to ruin all my fun, don't you, Becky? I never get to have any fun.
Yes.
You get all these spells that means that I don't get to do anything fun. You make all my cool monsters go away or kill them without any effort. All right. What level is that? Where's it at?
It's a level 1.
Animal friendship. There it is. All right. Spell lets you convince a beast that you mean it no harm. Choose a beast that you can see within range. It must see and hear you. If the beast's intelligence is 4 or higher, the spell fails. Otherwise, the beast must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be charmed by you for the spell's duration. If you or one of your companions harms the target, the spell ends. At a higher level, when you cast a spell using a slot of 2nd level or higher, you can affect 1 additional beast. Okay. So additional beasts wouldn't matter. What level are you going to cast it as? First?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Like, it's mostly what I have left.
All right, then it has to make a wisdom save. What is the DC for you? Let me look at your spell here. I was just there. Animal friendship, the DC is a wisdom DC of 16. Damn. You kind of thinking about your earlier interaction with the juveniles. 24 hours, Jesus. So you, in thinking about the earlier interactions, you kind of send out these positive hippie vibes towards this angry, furious monster that was very cool and is kind of banging against the walls behind you and just destroying this tunnel and collapsing it all behind you. And it doesn't physically react, but you do feel like it is aware that you're there and maybe doesn't wish you any further harm, I guess is how I'd say that. It doesn't basically, it's still crashing against these walls and chasing after you, but you don't see its mouth warm back up again, like it's going to spit another rock or anything like that. As far as you can tell, it probably succeeded. You're just not 100% certain. That work?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Anything else for Navarre's turn?
Not that I can think of.
That's not even concentration. Damn, you can keep that up and gust to win. Nice. Druids are awesome. All right, Peter's turn. What are you doing?
All right, I saw her cast Animal Friendship. I know that we can't cast anything to harm the creature because that'll break that friendship. Would a sleep spell count as harm?
As far as, well, here's the thing. That's meta knowledge, so if Sako knows that, then Peter may not necessarily. But I would say with as much studying as Peter has done in the arcane arts, he probably would have some familiarity there. Pain harms the target, the spell ends. I would say that putting it to sleep is not necessarily harming it, but at the same time, sleep is a very strange kind of a spell. Do you have it prepared?
Yeah, it's
okay.
First level enchantment.
All right, and at higher levels, additional 2d8 for each slot level above first. Basically, I'll put it this way. How sleep works is a little bit complicated in this version, apparently. I didn't know the earlier ones, but it's like considered one of the most complicated spells for 5e. As simple as it should be. How it works is you cast it on a target, and you roll a bunch of d8s. In this case, it would be, whatever the number is of total of d8s, which, if you cast it at first level, I think it's only 2d8 or whatever. But the number that you roll has to be more than the HP of the creature you're trying to put to sleep. The current HP. So if it
Gotcha.
was,
okay.
Yeah, and it has a ton of HP. So if you were to try it, and you basically, I'm telling you this because Peter would know these things. Doesn't matter if Sako knows or not, of course, because you can just read the card. But Peter would know that a sleep spell would probably be unlikely to work on a creature of this size and constitution. It'd have a ton of HPs, and the sleep probably wouldn't be strong enough to put it to sleep. That being said, if it fails, it still gets groggy. So there's still that benefit in that it'll have disadvantage on some things. But in this particular moment, who knows? Maybe that's not worth risking against the animal friendship. You're not necessarily sure. So it's up to you what you want to do there.
Gotcha. Okay. Then at this point, I think what I'm going to do is look around, see if there's anything coming up in the cave, something that we should be aware of, and just use this turn to just use kind of perception.
Sure. Go ahead and roll a perception. Looking ahead, in fact, you do. You're just because of where your lights are, and you kind of look straight to them and then look at the ground below, and you see another split, another Y shape in the track. And this one, the track goes, the one that you're on, is dipping back down to the ground again. It's no longer up on supports, and then splits in this Y shape. And it looks like the left one goes up this time, and the right one stays level. But the light coming from ahead of the tunnel that you're now seeing for the first time, Kita saw it earlier, is coming from the right side. You don't see light coming from the left side at all. And it is brighter now than it had been.
So light's coming from the right-hand side then?
Yep.
All right, can I just use a free action to yell out to, I think Ketis is in front, right?
Yep, it's going Ketis, and then you and June, and then Nivara, and then Wallace.
All right, I'm going to yell out to everybody really quick. Let's hit the right track, go towards the light.
Go towards the light. Like that, what was that woman's name from Poltergeist? Remember the old lady?
Yeah,
Really
I can't
weird
remember what her
creepy
name
lady.
was, though.
I think she died like right after that movie, didn't she?
Yeah, actually, I think so. That little
Right.
short lady.
Yeah, the really weird looking, like a gypsy lady or whatever she was.
Mhm.
All right, so you yank your cart to the right. Ketis and Ketis, I guess obviously Navarro here too, actually, because you're on both sides. Hear that. So on your turn, you can yank to the right if you want to. Would Toki do anything, G or for
man.
Peter?
Hang on, I got some guys.
All right, G. Tell you what, guys. Let's just we'll take a quick break while Ben's doing that. Okay.
Sounds good. 5 minutes?
Yep, 5 minutes.
All right.
All right. I am back.
All right, I'm back.
Yo. Ready to go as soon as I get back. You look at your 14 stuff yet? I mean, you got plenty of
Not
time.
yet.
You don't need to, but just curious.
Just started looking at my seventh level spells. That's really it.
Is there? Is that Ben? Mordenkainen's magnificent mansion. Critical Role used to use that constantly. Oh shit, plane shift? Damn. It's gonna be really
Yeah,
hard to give you
just
guys
looked at
challenges
that.
soon, yeah. Like you, especially between you and Navarre, you guys are gonna have spells that can do practically anything, so it's gonna be really hard to give you guys, like, legitimate the challenge. Is Becky back? I heard one of the two back. Between Ben
Yeah.
and Becky. Okay. Is Ben still out?
Yeah, he should be down there pretty soon.
I'm getting pickups from him occasionally, whereas Mike picks up, but it's probably just him talking to somebody. Is he downstairs then?
Yeah.
That's really cool that it works, like, that you guys' internet works good enough for that, because, like, he could barely move at all before without it dropping.
Yeah, I think he's using
Yo.
the Wi-Fi from downstairs, though.
Oh, okay. Well, if he's right by it, I guess it's working fine. Hey, G. All back?
All right. Yep. I'm actually using the Wi-Fi downstairs, so it's separate Wi-Fi now. So it's the gym one.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're next to it, that works fine. That's cool that you can play from down there, too, though.
Ours that actually would work from here anyway, though. So.
All right. So where we left off, there was a. Whoops, that was the wrong one. There was a another split in the tracks. Peter had yanked us to the right and warned you guys to do the same. Peter, were you doing anything else? I don't remember. Sorry. Did you do something on your turn, or do you still have actions?
I just used perception to see what's down the tracks. Then I warned everyone. I said, "Hey, turn to the right, turn towards the light," and then just kind of hunkered down.
Cool. All right. How about Toki? Do anything?
Same thing, just trying to calm down Jane.
Okay. June, and you do feel you're still holding the spear, and you are the second cart. I'll say it that way, but you do feel that. Go ahead.
Oh, I was about to say, could I just kind of look at the spear and see what it's telling me to do?
It's
Like, maybe
tipping.
it's kind of
It's
leaning?
tipping straight forward, like a lance almost. Like if you were, like a jouster, like a horse on, a guy on a, well, not joust like the 1980s video game Joust, but joust like a person on horseback with a lance. It's tipping forward like that.
Okay, so the way that we are heading.
Yes, the direction that you're going. After you've yanked it to the right, but you're not in front. I'll put it that way. You doing anything else for your turn?
I'm good.
Okay. Toki, do anything?
Togi just gonna keep comforting her down there.
Good. Okay. All right. The worm would be spitting more hot fire at you guys, but apparently he already dropped his album because Navarro won't let him do anything fun. So he is still banging against or she is still banging against the walls as it's kind of worming its way back and forth through this, but does not appear to be aggressive to you at the moment, at least. That doesn't mean that if it were to overtake you, that it wouldn't just roll over you, but it isn't necessarily trying to eat you. It doesn't have intelligence enough to realize that it could squish you. But Kiedis' turn, what are you doing?
All right. How close are Peter and I? Our cards.
They are pretty within 10 feet.
All right. And how long is the spear?
6.5.
Okay. And both of our arms are probably, what, a couple 3 feet each, Trying to see, because you were saying something, the way you're hinting, I'm thinking I probably need the spear. So, or he needs to get ahead of me. I don't think he can get ahead of me.
We can do some trigonometry here so we can figure out if 2 trains leave the
If there's
station
enough.
at...
We're like 1 fucking inch short, god damn it.
Kiedis' arms is 3.12 inches.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you looking ahead now that you yanked yours to the right too, I assume, right? G?
Yeah.
Your card. Okay. So your side has all of you now have gone down. You're no longer elevated and turned off to the right down this tunnel where it's now flat. And you see that the source of light from ahead, it's still a good, let's call it 100 feet ahead. You do see a shimmering kind of coloration. You're not seeing anything. You can't see the end of the tunnel yet, but you're seeing the light source is kind of rainbowy and shimmering, similar to the light that was shining through the dome from outside. So when you're near the dome, how it had a kind of a rainbowish hue to it, that's the color of the light you're seeing at the end of the tunnel. So what are you doing?
If we can, see if we can try to get the spear from him to me. What do you think? Should we try, Sako?
Yeah, just keep it on point, keep it on the front.
Okay.
You're going to try to, just reach back and have Sako hand it to you?
Yeah, if we can. I mean, I don't know if we give it a try. What if you guys want to? I'm guessing we might need it to get through that, because otherwise we're just going to smash into that dome, I'm guessing. So.
Okay, if that's
the plan. I don't have the spear ahead of me.
All right, then I'm going to go ahead and let you both make this roll at the same time, because one of you needs to, Peter needs to be able to hand it to Kiedis, and Kiedis needs to be able to grab it without dropping it. So, both of you roll, because this is a pretty precarious situation. Well, because you're so close, I would say it would have advantage, but because it's bouncing around with the worm banging against the walls, that would be disadvantage, so we'll just call it a flat roll. Both of you roll a sleight of hand.
With disadvantage?
Nope, just flat. It was basically you'd have one thing giving you disadvantage and one thing giving you advantage, so we're just going to call it a flat roll. Well, Ben still rolled it with disadvantage, which the other was a 17, and Sako's roll was a 14, so you guys are fine, or 15 rather. So you guys, Peter, you kind of lean out as far as you can, and holding the spear at the end of it, so basically the butt end, the part that would be on the ground, you tip it towards him with the sharp end pointed out towards Peter, or towards Kiedis rather. And Kiedis, you reach back as far as you can, holding onto the side of the cart to keep yourself from falling out, because the thing is still shaking every time that the worm smashes against the wall. It rattles this whole thing almost off of the tracks. But you reach back, and sure enough, you're able to get your hand around the end of it and bring it out towards, over in front of yourself. So you now have it in front of you. You can feel the similar thing that Peter kept feeling, where it kept trying to tilt, and you're feeling the same thing. It feels like it wants to be laid horizontally, facing forward. What are you doing?
That's what I'm going to do, like I'm on fucking joust, so like I'm on a bird.
Okay.
So, straight ahead, tip straight ahead.
Okay. You're just holding it it's floating in midair, it's not braced against anything, you're just holding it kind of under your arm, basically facing forward. Is that it for your turn?
Yeah, I'm just going to make sure I got a good grip on that.
Okay.
So.
Alright. Navarro's turn. What are you doing?
Alright, so we're just gonna try to make it a little bit easier, and I'm gonna try to dominate Beast.
You really just want to screw with every single monster I put in front of you guys. That seems like your whole goal is just like, you know what, no, Jeremy doesn't get to have any fun. What level's that?
Sorry, you cut out. What was that?
Oh, sorry. What level is that? Oh, I think I found it. Is that? Yeah, it's 4. Okay. Dominate Beast. That is concentration up to 1 minute, so you have to drop your gust of wind to do it, but you attempt to beguile a beast that you can see within range. It must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be charmed by you for the duration. If you or the creatures that are friendly to you are fighting it, it has advantage on the save. While the beast is charmed, you have a telepathic link with it as if the two of you are on the same plane of existence. You can use this telepathic link to issue commands to the creature while you are conscious, no action required, which it does to the best, or does its best to obey. You can specify a simple and general course of action, such as attack that creature, run over there, or fetch that object. If the creature completes the order and doesn't receive further direction from you, it defends and preserves itself to the best of its ability. Blah, blah, blah. And at higher levels, you can increase the duration, it looks like. Alright, so what are you doing?
Alright, so I'm going to use 6th level, so that way it lasts an hour.
Okay.
And then I guess just, if it works, tell it to slow down and, you know, not hit us.
Alright. 4th, there it is. Let me find it again. There it is. Alright, it has to make a DC 16 whiz save. It rolled a 14. Go ahead and here, I'll take the gust of wind off and go ahead and put the other concentration effect on yourself. And I'll drop that on him. There we go. Or her. All right. So you close your eyes and kind of gloss over in this kind of green haze, and send out these kind of emotional tendrils towards this, like vines almost, towards this creature, and you do feel it immediately take hold of its mind. It is under your control. What are you telling it to do?
To slow down, and you know, so that way it's not gonna run us over.
So it doesn't crush you?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. You tell it that, and immediately you can feel it. There's a certain this telepathic link to it. You can feel its own body, like its own shape, and you can feel that the muscles begin to kind of slow and almost like it's moving through molasses. There's so much momentum behind it that there's this whole train that's pushing it forward, and the head is stopped, but the rest of it is still kind of moving it. So it's got to kind of, you know, it takes a little bit. It doesn't stop on the spot. It has to kind of, you know, still continue crashing against the walls a little bit, just for you know, a couple maybe another 100 feet or so behind you, as it's kind of making its way there. But it does feel like it's beginning to. It's definitely slowing, and looks like it'll come to a stop before your next turn, probably. That if your turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Peter, looking forward again, you do see, now that you guys have come around the corner, you do see the shimmering field that is definitely the edge of this dome. What are you doing?
Once again, using perception to see out as far as I can. See if there's plenty of track left, see if there's safety in front of us.
Roll a perception. Go ahead and roll it with advantage, actually, because you're specifically spending your action to do this, as opposed to, you know, like a free action or anything. 15, 26, yeah, that's good. Looking ahead, you do see, actually, for one small spot, it's not very big, but there is a small section of track that is missing, as if, you know, maybe somebody had installed the tracks here and a part of it had gotten broken away, or maybe they meant to repair it and just never did. But there is, on the right rail, because there's 2 rails underneath your carts, there's a section of about 6 feet where the rail is missing, and it's just before the dome, before you'd hit the wall.
Okay, and did that take up my action for this turn or not yet?
No, I'd say you still. I mean, generally it would have, but I mean, for something like that, I wouldn't really take your action for it. That's kind of just you observing your surroundings. But go ahead.
Would I be able to fabricate? Do I have enough time to fabricate?
Is that a spell? There it
is,
huh?
Level 4? 4th level transmutation.
It says it's instantaneous. Casting time is 10 minutes, though. Yeah, you wouldn't have time.
Ah, okay.
On my turn, I don't know if I have to be able to physically touch it. Is that how mending works? Do I have to actually touch it with my hands?
Let's see. Mending it is touch. Yeah, casting time is 1 minute on that also, so you don't have the 1 minute either.
All right. Well, first things first is I'm going to yell out to Ketis out front, warning him of what's about to happen, letting everybody know that we have a situation.
Okay. Anything else then on Peter or Toki?
At this point, nothing. No.
Okay. All right, back to Ketis' turn. The worm has slowed to a stop. You don't see any more bugs. You're basically in a very where the shaft had been massive and 300 feet across is beginning to narrow down. So I mean, you still good, G, or do you need a second?
Oh no, I was just saying bye to somebody.
Okay, all right. So the shaft is beginning to narrow down, and it's just these two rails. And sure enough, after Peter called this out to you, Ketis, you look ahead and you see on the right rail that there's a section of it that's missing, about 6 feet. And it is only, that's 20 feet before you'd hit the wall, is where that section is missing. And you're about 60 feet back from there. Basically, okay. you're gonna hit it by the next round. So what are you guys doing?
All right, I'm thinking. Shit, I don't know. I'll probably just brace myself and see if we can jump it. I don't know, Donkey Kong style. We're going anyway, so.
Okay. All right, so for bracing yourself then, I guess, so you've got the spear under one arm that's just kind of floating in space. It's not like you don't have it braced against anything unless you're going to move it. But I guess tell me what you're doing to brace yourself, I guess.
I hold the spear for sure, and then just duck down in the cart a bit, so.
Okay.
Kind of hold on to the side with my other arm, push up against it.
All right. You actually have one thing that would be super useful for you, but... that'll be fine. All right, there isn't any kind of a roll or anything for you to make for just bracing yourself. So that it for your turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Navarro's turn. What are you doing?
Trying to see. Would wall of stone be able to work? Like, if I could lay it flat?
You mean to like replace that part of the track?
Yeah.
Let's see, what level is Wall of Stone? There it is, looks like 5th. Yeah. Concentration up to 10 minutes. You would have to drop your Dominate Beast to do that. It may still continue what it was doing. It doesn't instantly turn hostile or anything. But it is concentration based, takes 1 action, which means you could cast it. Wall is 6 inches thick and composed of 10 foot by 10 foot. 6 inches thick would be fine as far as the rail is concerned, just to get it over that and then back onto the next part of the track. So I'd say that would work. You would have to drop your concentration to put this up, though.
Oh.
Since it's only an action
you said
to
it was
cast
already slowing.
What's that? Yeah, it's already slowing.
You said it was already slowing down.
Yeah. Now, you don't necessarily know that you dropping it doesn't mean it would instantly turn hostile towards you. You don't really know. But it did. It had already stopped, actually. It had already come to a stop just before Ketis' turn.
All right. And I still have Animal Friendship up, right?
Yes, that one stays up.
Yes.
Yeah, that wasn't concentration-based.
Okay, then I guess I'll try.
All right. Okay, so you send this out, and you actually see Peter and Ketis specifically, being a little bit ahead, see that the dirt around where that rail is, kind of form up in the proper shape and begin to solidify and turn into just this kind of solid granite chunk. It's not quite perfect. It's not the right size, but it is holding up where that rail is, and therefore the cart shouldn't tip off to the right. It would just roll over that part and then continue on the rail ahead of it, presumably. But it's going to be a bumpy ride when you get there. Is that it for your turn on Navarre?
Yeah.
Okay. And just as it's coming up to Peter's turn, as you guys are because Ketis and Ketis in the front, and then Peter, so you guys are coming up to that both. In fact, all three of you go ahead and make a dex save with advantage. And I'll roll one for June as well, actually. Wallace is so heavy that I don't think it's going to matter for him. Ketis, you see this coming up ahead, and you've kind of got the spear stuck out ahead of you, and you just hold on as tight as you can. You were already kind of prepared for this needing to hunker down anyways. So you feel the cart kind of rattle underneath you, and where you hit it, it pops you up, and you would have gone flinging up out of the top of it, but you're heavy enough with all your gear on, and the way that you were holding yourself down that you kind of just kind of seat yourself back right in place. Peter, same kind of thing. You feel that the cart bump up underneath you, but you just were holding on with one hand, and kind of preparing yourself for this, and you don't end up getting popped out of it. Navara, on the other hand, the bump comes up underneath you, and you're just not. The thing slips out of your hand, and you just weren't holding on tight enough, and you go bumping up out of it and fling off to the side a little ways, just enough that you're just barely outside the cart. Go ahead and roll another dex save, this time to try to grab on the cart before you go flinging off. We need to be a 10. And you don't beat a 10.
Oh my god.
You just slap a hand out trying to snake your hand down to grab the side of it, and just to no avail. You go flinging out of the cart and you smack against the side of the wall where this tunnel is narrowed down, and you hit the wall and then collapse straight to the ground. You're now flat on the floor as these carts just go sailing past you. The worm's still a ways behind you. You're just in the tunnel, not moving any longer. It is Peter's turn. You look behind you, you see Navarro go fleeing by, and is now just laying in the dirt behind you, 10 feet behind you now. What are you doing?
Have we already passed the opening where we can see outside the dome?
You're coming up to it. You basically are 15 feet away, or 20 feet away, or something like that from the wall right now. And you have just a split second to react to anything before Ketis hits the wall.
Alright, I'm trying to think if I have a spell or something to help her with this situation. So she fell out of the cart, or she's just in the cart?
She got flung out of the cart. So basically the rock part that she used to replace the rail, it gave it a big bump. Like, it basically gave all three of you just a huge bump when you guys hit that rock piece, because it wasn't flat rail anymore. And you guys held on, but Navarro wasn't quite ready for it because she was still forming the rock, and got flung up out of the cart, hit the wall, and then fell on the ground. And she's outside. It's just an empty cart behind you now.
And the worm is still behind us, slowly moving now.
It's stopped. It's 100 feet behind you and not moving forward right now.
If possible, I'll yell out to Ketis that she fell out, in case he didn't see it, and slam the brakes as hard as I can for now, and give her a second to jump back in the cart, or assist her if she needs some assistance.
Okay. The brakes take time because all these are pressure brakes against the side of the wheel. It won't stop you instantly, but you've at least pulled it. So is that your turn then?
Yeah, pretty much just warning Ketis what happened, and then beginning the process to assist in the event that she needs some assistance.
Okay. And Toki not doing anything?
Toki's still just
chilling
out.
Okay. June screams in panic, seeing that you guys are about to hit a wall, and Ketis looking forward. You hear Peter yell out from behind you that Navarro was flung out of there. You kind of turn your head slightly, but there's just not time, and you crash straight into the wall. The spear is directly in front of you. You're just holding it as tight as you can, trying to put as much force behind this thing as you can to hopefully do something. Just kind of trusting Israfel in the guidance that she was giving you, and forcing that spear tip forward to hopefully do something. And sure enough, as soon as you are coming into contact with it, you actually don't feel anything at all. You go sailing through what feels like just normal air and out into an open space. And at first it's so blinding and so bright that Peter, you go sailing through straight behind. Like there's almost no time. You're just moving too fast that the brakes don't have time to kick in. Navarro, you're just eating dirt for a minute, but Ketis and Peter, you guys go sailing through at first what just feels like just blinding light because you've been in a cave for so long. But then after a couple of seconds where your eyes still haven't adjusted, you realize that you're not outside, you're in that white space again. And Peter, you look down, and where June had been, she's not there anymore. And Ketis, you look down, and where the spear was in your hands, it's not there anymore. And you look up, and the old woman is standing again. She actually, as you guys have sailed into this white space, you look up, and she is carefully, very slowly, very carefully, standing herself up by using the spear, just kind of hand over hand, kind of carefully, takes, a few different overlapping these hands before she's able to kind of stand up. Still crooked back, still looks very ancient, but she stands herself up, and she looks at you guys, and she gives you a big smile, and the moment passes very briefly, and you... In fact, actually, sorry, we'll get back to you guys in just a second. So you guys are still there, switching back to Nivara. Yeah, we'll switch back to Nivara, yeah. You are still face down in the dirt, and you look forward and see you say face sideways in the dirt, looking forward down the track, and see them go sailing through it, and they just disappear. And where you kind of would have expected, of course, to see tracks continue just outside and so on, and out into the grass or the dirt outside or whatever, the shimmering field is gone. It's just a white space now, but you feel a presence that feels at once familiar, but also very very scary at first, and it's a same kind of feeling you felt numerous times before. You've been in the presence of this entity many times by now, but the apparition, the kind of skull-faced lich form apparition, appears in front of you, walks over to you, leans a hand down, trying to assist you to stand up. And it says, "I'm really proud you didn't use the spear." What do you do?
I guess take it. Stand up.
Okay. The hand is bony and cold and definitely dead. There's still something familiar about this entity. Not just that you've seen it so many times, but something that it's intangible, something you can't quite put your finger on. And as it helps you up, it's male. As he helps you up, he says, "Do you trust me? Of the three of you, I don't know. You're the only one that I thought would."
Sure.
It hears the caution. Go ahead and roll a... well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you the choice. Either you're lying to him, in which case roll a deception, that you don't actually trust him, or you are telling the truth, in which case I want you to roll not performance, but persuasion. So if you're telling the truth, then you do trust him, roll persuasion. If you're lying to him, roll a deception. And he's going to roll insight against that.
Well, I guess technically I would be lying since I wouldn't fully trust him. I would be really cautious about it, so...
Sure. Okay, go ahead and roll your deception. He hangs his head a little bit. You see him kind of his head just kind of tilt down. He looks at you first and then kind of tilts his head down. He's looking at the ground and he says, "Yorith, they don't trust me. I don't think I can do this anymore." And he's kind of just sitting there, just staring at the ground, and obviously very upset by sensing that you just lied to him. And he looks back up at you, and he says, "Next time we see each other, I'm going to need you to trust me, or we'll never make it. Nothing will." And then he engulfs in flames again and disappears, and you're now back in this tunnel, and you look back towards the wall of what had been the white space, and it is just outside.
Okay.
And you are now in this... Go ahead. What are you doing?
I guess make my way outside.
Okay. You walk out there, and we'll skip back to that in just a second. Actually, for Ketis and Peter in the white space, the old woman that's there says... hang on, where is it? She says... Sorry, I have to make a quick modification here because I wasn't expecting Becky to get thrown out of the cart. You intuit that the way that this entity is speaking to you is the same as Israfel had been speaking to you. In fact, it feels like that's still the same person. Like somehow this person, this old woman that's in front of you, is both June and Israfel at the same time, or maybe that Israfel has possessed June in some way. And she speaks into your minds in the same way that in the cave she had, and in the temple. And again, Nivara's not here, of course, but just Peter and Ketis. But she tells you that she's very sad. There's a very sad tone in her voice, and she says, "I looped this 61,757 times. You should really just watch this." And there's just a certain somber tone to that. And then she fades away, and the kind of white surrounding space here is gone. And sure enough, you're standing back outside in the dirt again, outside of refuge, right by Rodalt. And he doesn't see you at first because you're enough feet away that as far as he's concerned, he hasn't seen you anyways, and you didn't like walk out or anything. You didn't come out of a cave. You're just outside, like almost the same place that you left from. And you're looking back you turn around and look, and sure enough, the dome is still there, and Ivara is beside you all of a sudden. You're all kind of back in the same place, essentially, that you were when you went in, and looking at this dome that is still there. And you hear, again, Israfel in your mind, she says, just watch. And looking through this dome, she says, we're going to have to play catch-up for a little while. The people inside have been stuck in there for a little over 7 years, and you're gonna see them live through that time as they catch up, so that everything can be right again. And then Peter, you feel something heavy in your hands, and you look down, and the chronospear is in your hand again, just like it had been earlier when June gave it to you. But as you're looking through this dome, the light begins to flicker just rapidly over and over and over again. And it first takes you a second to realize what's happening, and then you realize that it's going day, night, day, night, day, night, over and over and over again, as it's kind of rapidly moving through time, trying to catch up. And you're watching it, and before long, within a matter of a minute, you see a group of kids that keep coming up to the other side of the dome, the inside of the dome, and they keep doing this every day. You see them, they're just there and then gone, and then there and then gone, and it's because they're going home at night to their families and then coming back to look at you through the dome. And you see over time they start building, and you see them kind of growing up as this is happening, as well as they're slowly getting older. But you see them building these little statues on the other side, and they're building statues of you guys. So you see these kind of rough hewn, not statues so much as like sandman, like you'd make a snowman, but this time out of sand, that look vaguely like the three of you standing on this side. And you see another one being built over off to the side that looks a little bit like Rodalt, who is standing over by the cannon, and he still doesn't seem to have noticed you. But they kind of build these things up on the other side as this is moving on. And you see further in town where the giant sign was that you kept waking up by Wallace. You see that sign over there, and they've put up this big banner over this as thank you that they've hung from the banner there. This last loop, this time that you went through before you finally made it out, they remembered that. They knew who you were, and they knew that something was being fixed inside, basically, and that they're catching up. So it's clear that they that they recognize what's happening. And then sure enough, the time just keeps going and going. You see all of the people that you've met inside of town that occasionally come up to the inside. You see Lily, the bar owner, that comes up, and sure enough, she's got some crow's feet around the eyes and things like that. You can see that they've aged as they come by to visit. You can't speak to them or anything else because it's just moving too fast. But after all of this time has eventually passed, it begins to slow a little bit, and the kind of rapid pace of the sun and the moon going back and forth begins to slow until eventually it seems like it's just finished, and the dome just slowly fades down to the ground, and it's just gone. And there you are, standing at the edge of town. The town is now open, and there's just this huge collection of people, all the people that you met in town that have gathered on the outside there to come and kind of officially meet you for the outside. And there you are. It is the dome is now down. You are able to see these people on proper terms now that they're no longer stuck in a time loop. And that is it. So what are you guys doing? Basically, the whole town's gathered in front of you. What are you guys doing?
Hello?
Okay.
Yeah.
Faded out for a second there.
Cut it out there.
Yeah, so even my side was cutting out. Like I didn't hear the music for a second there. But basically, the time just continued throughout all of that, and then the dome eventually came down, and now you guys are standing on the outside. Almost the entire collection of the townsfolk are on the inside because they knew this was coming, and they're basically gathered up together just on the outskirts of town, the same place that you shot through, basically, just gathered to say hello and everything now, and thank you for bringing the wall down. So what are you guys doing? Basically, everybody's there. Is anybody particularly you wanted to talk to or anything else?
No, if you guys want to go over and say hi to everybody.
Just kind of catch up, see what happened in their lives.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, as you guys kind of are approaching the townsfolk there, and they all seem like that nobody's moved forward. They're still standing there, and you get the impression they may be a little bit cautious about stepping outside the dome, as if maybe it's still really there or something. There's kind of this intangible wall to them that's still there. But as you're approaching, heading that way, specifically on Nivara, actually, you're just kind of walking towards them, and you hear a familiar bird call that you had heard every time that you started a new loop, where Wallace, the bird, had flown down and then settled on the elemental's shoulder. And this time, you just hear the bird. There's no elemental around, and it flits down and it settles down on your shoulder, Nivara. And he says, well, I mean, it's good to see you guys. It seems like it's been so long. Like it almost felt like a dream.
Where's the rock? Like you?
He says, well, I don't rightly have a good answer for you there. I mean, I remember going down that tunnel with you guys, and then I was just not the rock parts were just all gone, and I was just me again, just my bird self again. But I mean, I still have all my memories and my faculties, and like, I mean, I can still think things that I more than I never could before when he was just a bird. But I don't know. I mean, it doesn't feel like I'm shackled to that thing anymore. And I mean, I can just fly and I can explore, and I don't know. I mean, I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm just going to fly around and explore for a while, and just get out of this town here for a little while. But I just wanted to say thank you for all you did for us.
You're welcome.
And he chirps in your ear, and sure enough, he flits off, and he actually flies over and lands on top of the big sign where the Dry Gulch sign was outside of town, and he's just sitting up there watching folk for now, but just watching over the townsfolk there. Ketis, as you guys are kind of moving through and just shaking hands and talking to townsfolk and everything, you do see that Mammy, actually the old baking woman, the diviner, the one that had given you guys those prophecies, you see her off to one side a little bit, not far. She's not being awkward about it or anything, but she's just barely outside of the main group, and she kind of beckons you over.
All right, I'll go over, talk to her.
So when you walk up to her, she says, well, I mean, I had something for you guys that that I wanted to give to the three of you, just so that you've got something to remember me by. And she hands you just a rolled up piece of cloth with, you feel something warm inside of it. You're probably baked goods of some kind. That's what it feels like. It's a little hot for that right now, but she's handed it to you. She said, just put it in your pack, and then share it with them when you see them.
All right, tell her thank you.
He says, and before you go, I mean, the reason I wanted to talk to you specifically is, well, one of these here crystals, it had a message for you, that I wanted to just tell you, and leave it up to you if you wanted to share it with your friends or not, but I didn't want to say it in front of them just in case. And she reaches in a pocket and she grabs a much larger crystal than the ones. Remember, there were two sizes in her hut, and she pulls out one that is much bigger than either of those. And she reaches out her hand with her other hand, like to try to get you to hold it. Do you grab her hand?
Yeah.
Okay. So she's grabbed your hand with her left, basically. You're holding her left hand, and she's got the stone in her right, and she throws it on the ground, and specifically at a rock, and it explodes when it hits the rock and shatters all over the place. She tilts her head back, looking up, and the kind of ethereal voice that comes out of her is the same one that you heard in the shack, which she was giving the prophecies there. And what she says is, death, but not for you, never for you. May I put it plainly, you go on. That's what she says.
All right.
And same thing, so she releases your hand, and this time she doesn't say a word. She tilts her head down, she nods at you, and then just begins to kind of make her way off, like not back into the crowd, but she's kind of back towards the center of town, like maybe she's just going back home. But she doesn't say a word. She's just kind of, very carefully, very slowly, because she's not a healthy woman, is just making her way back towards town.
Okay.
And then as you guys are still kind of just moving through the crowd and saying hello to everybody and accepting their thanks and things like that, June, actually, you see as you guys are moving through the crowd, June finds that the three of you kind of have come back together a little bit, as you're kind of getting ready to take off and go back and see Rodal. Rodal, by the way, has already, seen everybody. Oh, the kids, by the way, come together with June and tell you, we were making bets. We thought, when we saw him out there, we thought maybe he was your guys' boss or something. We just saw this other guy. We didn't meet him when you guys were here in town, so we thought maybe he was the boss. So we made him a statue too because we didn't want you guys to get in trouble. So they're pointing at the statue, just like stammering on over and over again. With their little statues that they'd built outside. And Rodal just is chuckling and just kind of, standing off to the side. He wasn't really part of this adventure, obviously. But as the three of you are kind of gathered together, June gives you just, a big hug and a very warm thank you. And as you guys are kind of preparing to go, she grabs Peter's hand before you can go off. So as Peter, she kind of tries to hold you back for a second. Do you stay back with her? She looks you in the eyes and she says, "My daddy had something that I need to share with you, and I don't really know how this is going to affect you. I don't know this it would be scary for me. I imagine it'll be scary for you, but I'm going to give you this, and I want you to promise me that you won't open it in front of other people. You go back to someplace safe where you're by yourself, and then you open it, and then you figure out how you feel then, okay?"
Okay.
And she hands you a cardboard tube, just a plain cardboard tube, the kind of thing that you'd put maps in, for example, like a map case or a scroll case of some kind. She hands you something like that.
Sounds good. I thank her and then step back.
Okay. All right, then we are going to, for the sake of time, because we're getting close on time here anyways, we are going to fast forward a little bit, kind of hand wave back that you guys have returned to the college, turned in the chronosphere, all the kind of the normal procedures you guys have gotten used to. But you guys have returned back to... Music go. There we go. All right. I guess it's really quiet at the start. Anyways, return back to the college. It's late. It's that night. It's been a pretty hectic day where you relived the 9 hours of the same thing over and over and over again of that same loop. But you did leave relatively early in the morning, so despite it feeling like it's been an eternity, it's really been about one normal day's worth of time by the time you get back. Rodal did mention, by the way, outside, that it only actually been about 50 minutes since you guys left. Like 45, 50 minutes before you showed back up again. So outside, time didn't pass. It was only inside that it was passing. But anyways, you've all made it back. You've turned in the chronosphere, and everybody's kind of settled in for the night. Peter, you're in your chambers. Actually, did you go to your library or back to your chambers?
Probably just chambers after the evening.
Trying to get some rest?
Yeah, for now.
Okay. So you grab that case, that cardboard case, scroll case kind of thing, and you open it. And there's immediately something strange about the parchment that's inside this tube, which is that you can see it. There we go. Which is that you can see it. You can see what's on it, but when you try to draw conclusions about what you're seeing, when you try to understand what it is that you're seeing, your mind turns to static. And it's an incredibly uncomfortable sensation. So you're trying to piece this together in your mind, and it just won't fit. Like a puzzle that's missing pieces. So what you see inside the tube are 2 sheets of paper, just 2 rolled up pieces of parchment, and on one of them is a design for the statue that stands in the middle of Dry Gulch, the one that depicts Jack, June, and the tall, gray-coated man that's standing between them. And it has a date etched on the corner of it. And the other piece of parchment, when you look at the date, you can tell that this is an older draft of the same statue, an older design of the exact same statue. So basically you see one paper that has a date on it that is what you saw, the same statue you saw, and then there's another paper that looks older, and it's an older version of the same statue that was not built. And in this sketch, in the older one, in the earlier sketch, Jack and June look exactly the same, but the gray coat's hood is pulled down, and you can see his face, and it's an incredibly familiar face because it's your face. The figure in this gray coat in that statue is you. And that's where we're going to end tonight's session.
We trusted you. Man. Man.
Never trust a man who carries a jar of bees.
Yeah.
That's a deciding factor. You never trust bees. All right, dudes. We will call it there.